a communication to the children to take a trip, to cop out, to groove. The psychedelic checks on the record albums. This is a special question. We don't want you to smoke genetically modified ganja. We want you to smoke the real thing. We want you to smoke the natural herb. Sweet. Some call it marijuana. Sweet. Some call it sesame. Sweet. Some call it lamb's bread. The tea. And some people call it
Welcome to the Adam Dunn Show. I am your host, Adam Dunn.
I'm Dave Charnick.
And we are not live.
Nope. We're not live.
Virtual world. We're in virtual world, pre-show virtual world, but it's important because we needed to get our guests on. We had a lot of guests this week because, as you know, with the descheduling and rescheduling and all of that, we have a lot of interest and a lot of confusion. So we want to kind of clear up some of that. So we brought on Anthony Minniti and also Jason Beck from High at 9 News. We're going to delve into it now, and then we're going to continue it when we get down to the show later today. So welcome to the show, Anthony. Welcome, Jeff.
He's
Jason.
Tony. We've known him for 2 minutes already. He's Tony.
Right.
Come on.
Oh, he's Tony. Hey, Tony. Hey.
Good to see you, Tony.
Look, back in college, my nickname was the Big Ragu. So, you know, it's Tony works perfectly for me.
Wait, the Big Ragu, that was, what's his name? The dancer from Laverne and Shirley. Yeah.
My fraternity had a real sense of humor about it.
But that was
back in the 80s and 90s. We weren't as PC, so.
Yeah, when life was better.
Give your fraternity a shout out.
It's Alpha Zeta Omega Beta chapter at Philadelphia College of Pharmacy and Science.
Oh, nerd fraternity. Sweet.
Nerd fraternity, yeah. That's the only one that would have me, honestly.
And then we have Jason Beck. I'm wondering, Jason, do you think you could have worn a High at 9 shirt? You have the High at 9 background. You picked up the High at 9 coffee mug. You have the underwear and shirt package on or anything like that? Oh, good. It hides your face when you do that. Keep it right there. Good. So I first discovered Tony yesterday or 2 days ago on LinkedIn when he made a post that you can all go look up. It's a public post. And he was so, in my opinion, spot on with what is about to happen to this industry, where Tony and like 4 other people in the entire country will be the only ones properly licensed to handle a Schedule III narcotic and distribute it, dispense it, sell it, and profit from it. Because as it stands right now, we don't know shit. Everyone has an opinion, and your position seemed to have sparked so much dialogue. My entire Instagram feed yesterday were all these people going, hey, if you don't know who Tony Manetti is, you're going to know who he is after tomorrow. And so thank you for taking time. I know your dance card is full. This is the first time in the history of the show we've ever recorded something. Normally we have 100 yentas telling me how much I suck in the chat room. But when we air it live, they'll be there. I can say whatever I want, so fuck them. But we really appreciate your time. We know we have a hard stop at the top of the hour, and so we want to be respectful for that. So what happened 2 days ago? The DEA just released a press release saying that they would be making a decision to reschedule cannabis to Schedule III. And that lit up the biggest blunt in the history of the cannabis space. And so I read what you wrote. I've listened to Jason. Adam and I are Chicken Little. We really, I've been making fun of how the next strains from the, next year will be some type of Pfizer Skittles MNRA cross that will get you high, and you'll be vaccinated for the flu and all coronaviruses for a year. So I'll give you the floor. Tell everybody who you are, and let's just open the discussion to see where it goes, because no one knows, right? If it's going to be handled the way everything else was, then we're fucked. But I don't think it's going to go that way. I think there's going to be some, I don't want to use the word compromise when the government is
not going to fuck
you. I said they're going to fuck with us. Of course they are, but I think it's going to be a slow roll. And I don't want to. I want Tony to talk first before I say it, but it's going to come down to the old states' rights thing. That's what it's really going to come down to, and we'll see. So, welcome to the show, Tony.
Thank you, and thank you again for making making this the first time that you pre-recorded. I really appreciate it. This is such an important issue because I don't think any of us really understand, but those of us that have been in this industry since the beginning, and that's really not all that long. Recently, it seems like things have very much accelerated. This is such an important issue. We're going through an exciting but historic moment right now, and I think that we're losing perspective in all the enthusiasm about cannabis going mainstream. And I don't think that we've fully discussed or debated what the different options are and what happens with each one of those options. Just I'll give a very brief, about what my background is. I'm 54 years old now. I've been working in pharmacy since I was 14. I've been in an elected office. I was an elected official for my hometown of Cinnaminson for 15 years, and I served 4 one-year terms as mayor. So I know a little bit about the political process also. And upon my retirement in 2018 from politics, I really started to go full force on something that was very passionate for me. It was the idea of opening the first in the nation medical cannabis dispensary through a pharmacy. And at the time, it went back to a bit of a moment I had when I purchased Bell Pharmacy with my family in 1997. I found a bottle that said tincture of cannabis. And I remember thinking to myself, what? And I looked at it, and at the time, it was a curiosity. I didn't even know if I was allowed to have it, but I kept it. And when New Jersey started talking about medical cannabis in the mid-2000s, I picked up this bottle and I looked at it, and it dawned on me, why not try to bring cannabis back through pharmacy again? We had the Marinol experiment, which was a synthetic THC derivative, which ironically was Schedule 4, and didn't go very well. But I developed a model, and I instantly began trying to implement it. And at the time, basically my point to the regulators was, Jersey's declared it a drug. It's issued pursuant to a doctor's written order, which was the medical card. I don't need your permission or licensing to dispense cannabis. I'm registered with the DEA. I could do it right now. Now, of course, nobody like that. So it really fell down to this issue of the federal prohibition. And for a pharmacy, if you violate that federal prohibition, and the guys in Georgia just learned this the hard way, the DEA can come in and CMS, and they could yank all your federal licensures. And in pharmacy, when that happens, you're more or less out of business. So that was sort of what was hanging over our head. And I was working on an alternate route, and it was the idea of co-locating a pharmacy department right next to a dispensary under one roof. The concept, if you think about it, from where depending on what part of the country you're in, you have pharmacies, but they have liquor stores inside. A Walmart has a pharmacy department next to a photo department. So that was what we've eventually executed with Camden Apothecary at Bell Pharmacy. So I come at this as a passionate advocate for the profession, and also having experienced what I consider to be the decimation of independent pharmacy. I don't want to see that happen to what we've worked so hard to bring about at the national level with cannabis. Because the federal government is out of it, and the DEA isn't regulating it, so much innovation and so much creativity and so much independent ownership and vitality and vibrance comes in this industry. And you can't appreciate it because nobody in this industry has worked under the thumb of the federal government like I do on the pharmacy side. It is horrible. we have no leeway. We can do nothing other than what they allow us. And we have to impose very unpopular regulations on the public that are not of our choosing. Think about it. You're in a business where we're dependent on people getting prescriptions filled, yet so often we have to tell them no more often than yes. It's so counterproductive, but that's what happens when you fall under the thumb of the federal government. And what I'm so concerned about in seeing this move to, quote, reschedule is nobody truly understands the nuance of exactly what that means. People are focused on things like the Safe Banking Act and, wow, it's less taboo or it's less criminalized as a Schedule 3 than a Schedule 1. That is not true. And not because that's my opinion, because that's the facts. Everything that I've posted, some people have come off as thinking that it's me not being pro-cannabis or me not being for cannabis being more mainstream. That couldn't be further from the truth. Once we make this step and cross this Rubicon where it becomes reclassified, it's over. The federal government will have in one action, one sign of the pen, taken over the entire industry and subjugated every single participant in the industry to their regulation. That's what happens when something is classified. There's a law called the Controlled Substances Act of 1970. Before that, there was no, quote, controlled substances. Doctor wrote a prescription, you filled it. That was it. There was no oversight. There was no stigma. There was no anything. Cannabis was being dispensed out at Bell Pharmacy in the 1930s before the federal government prohibited it altogether. So when the Controlled Substances Act came into being, that was where a federal bureaucracy now exercised full authority over prescribers' ability to prescribe, dispensers, as in pharmacists' ability to dispense. They make the rules, we follow them. That's it. The reason that you have that is because to handle any of these substances through Schedule 2 through Schedule 5, cocaine, believe it or not, is a Schedule 2 prescription drug. It's not a Schedule 1 like many think. Xanax, by comparison, is Schedule 4, where they are proposing to put cannabis, would put it with Suboxone, ketamine, anabolic steroids, and all those regulations that apply to those drugs, and I know what they are because I've dispensed all of these medications, would now apply to cannabis. First and foremost, for any person in the industry, be it manufacturing, cultivation, dispensary owners, you must obtain a DEA registration and license. And by the way, if you have any sort of drug conviction, you're automatically excluded from getting a DEA license. Now, how many of us in the cannabis space, especially what we've tried to promote in so many of the legacy, those in the legacy market, we've tried to bring into the, quote, legitimate market or have them as participants. They'll never be licensed by the DEA. If you've had any sort of felony, you will not get a DEA license. You have to apply for it. It's not something you apply for and get. You apply for and are screened. You're fingerprinted. You go through an FBI background check. And you have that DEA license, and once you have that license and you accept it, yes, you can have commerce within the controlled substances area, meaning you can accept the delivery of controlled substances from a supplier who also is DEA registered and licensed. Otherwise, can't get the product. If you get the product, it's a felony. The penalties for possessing a Class 3 controlled substance without a prescription are severe, far more severe than what cannabis is right now. And there is no decriminalizing it at the state level. Once there's a federal schedule in place, a state can't go in and say, oh, okay, well, the federal government, well, yeah, you made it, Schedule 3, but we're not going to recognize that. No, that's not the way it goes. And not because the federal government can choose to look the other way like they do with the Schedule 1, the Schedule 1 classification now. It's because suppliers will be violating the conditions of their DEA license if you don't have a DEA license. The suppliers will be the enforcers of the regulation on the distribution. So the government's not going to enforce. The supply chain is going to enforce that. It's a serious situation. And I've never really taken this seriously and all this back and forth, because I've always thought that, well, you know, this is inside baseball. I understand the difference between declassification and reclassification. And people are saying reclassify, but really what they mean is declassify, like alcohol and tobacco, where, you know, it's not a controlled substance. And by the way, I want everyone to think of that. Controlled Substance Act. Controlled. They're telling you what they're going to do. The federal government, the name of the act is controlled. They're controlling it, the federal government. And if this classification goes in with one signature, that's it. They've seized the entire control of the entire industry, top to bottom. It's not Chicken Little, it's what it is. And I published the controlled, the manual that all DEA registrants are required to have this manual and know it, and I have to take continuing education on it. And all I'm doing is showing you what it says. This is what it says. If it's classified as a Schedule III substance, you can only get it via a prescription. There is no over-the-counter ketamine. There is no over-the-counter anabolic steroids.
The big question is, because we have a firewall between two coexisting industries within the industry. We have medical cannabis and we have adult use cannabis. So when you talk, you know, what you've just said, does that apply to both sides, to recreational and to medicinal? What does it apply to?
It is the substance. Cannabis is the substance. There is no.
So it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, conceivably, there would be no recreational because there couldn't be. Right. You can't draw a distinction between, okay, I have an eighth of Mexican flan. Whether I got it from the guy on the street or it's just you have it. But because it's Schedule I, the only regulation of Schedule I is it's federally prohibited. It's not recognized as a drug.
Right.
So it's not subject to all the regulations of the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, which is a whole other part of this. If it becomes Schedule III, you can only get it through a doctor's prescription. That's what the manual says.
So you said second.
And if a doctor prescribes it, it has to be approved by the FDA as a drug, which means all these products potentially would all have to go through the 7 to 15 year drug approval process at the FDA level. This is what this unlocks. I mean, and guys, everybody laughs because it seems so crazy because it would kill the industry.
Why would the government ever do something crazy?
Well, Tony, Tony, there's one other part that you haven't thrown into the mix yet, is that the FDA already has drug preclusion on CBD for Epidiolex and THC for Marinol. And the FDA regulates everything by the compound and not the substance. And so every single product on every single store shelf across the country will be deemed illicit product because it hasn't gone through that FDA process that Tony was just alluding to.
Right.
Tony said a big word.
I didn't even get into all that end of it because we have to stop it before it gets to that point.
Right.
We can't let it get to that point because once it gets to that point, it's over. Big Pharma takes over. Curaleaf sells itself to Rite Aid. Verano.
See, I told you, Adam. I told you.
Verano. They'll sell to Pfizer, Merck, whoever, and it's gone. It's gone. And
everybody bought every cannabis stock yesterday. Because
the state has nothing to say anymore because the states are subordinate to the federal regulation. States can't come in and declassify. So right now, the situation we have with Schedule I, and everybody thinks, well, it's Schedule I, that's bad. No, that's good.
Yeah.
Because there's no regulation. other than you can't have it. And now what we've, through the first Obama administration, and to Trump's credit, through his and to Biden's credit, those administrations have instructed their DOJs that we're not going to interfere in the states, what each state's decided how they're going to do this on their own. The only thing is you can't have interstate commerce because then it becomes a federal issue. And you can't, we don't have the safe, the 280E that everybody wants to deduct because federal dollars are involved. But in New Jersey, they have found a way to make it deductible at the Jersey level. And all states, and what's great about this is every state's done it differently. At Jersey's level, Jersey's found a way you can deduct your expenses off of your state tax, your state business tax.
But your state business taxes are very small in proportion to what you pay in the federal side.
Correct. It is. But the bottom line is, if this goes the way of reclassification, that doesn't matter anymore. And and I don't even know if, let's assume that dispensaries could somehow, and it would have to be rolled out over time, but a dispensary somehow could be DEA licensed. I'm not aware of any mechanism that would allow cannabis as a Schedule III substance to be dispensed out of anything other than a licensed pharmacy, which is a whole other thing. I mean,
the doctor's prescription.
Right.
Well, they're going to have to create a whole new definition, and a whole new set of rules to allow this going on. And Tony, I have another question for you. I mean, because Schedule III drugs, they can't be taxed. So now what's going to happen to all these state revenues that's coming in from all this overtaxation that every municipality is undergoing?
Exactamundo. That's why I'm saying it is.
There's the money part.
The federal government is seizing the entire thing. And if you've noticed, it's been so quiet. You really don't hear the politicians debating this all that much. Other than in our industry, you haven't heard anybody out there railing against it or for it. You don't hear the drug companies saying anything. And our own bigger players in the cannabis space haven't been, other than a congratulatory message about whatever, you haven't heard them say a lot. That should be all you need to know. The only people that are concerned about this are those that understand, which are very few.
Yep.
And those who understand the ramifications of this being co-opted by the federal government and turned over to big business. I can tell you that I've received countless messages from across the country, from people in private equity funds, people in the investment space who were getting ready to push their money onto the table. And when they found out that this reclassification was possible, they pulled it back. Everybody, all of these money people have told me the same thing. They pulled their funds back because they did not want to invest in the industry as is, because reclassification ends it. And it's a whole different animal at that point. You don't want to invest in an industry that's going to be taken over by big pharma, that's going to be taken over by the Amazon and the Costcos, and you invest in the Amazon and the Costcos and big pharma. So the money that would have been flowing into our industry is on hold, and it's on hold because of they know, and they said, what nobody else knows. We know it because we've done the deep dive, and we know that you can't put money in this until there's certainty regarding reclassification versus declassification. And they pulled it. So follow the money and follow the silence.
Along those lines of following the money, Jason, you just brought up a good point. If the most heavily affected negative are the states, then we just found where our money's going to come from. This is a conversation we had before. We were talking earlier that if you don't pay taxes on something, you have no representation in government. Everyone just look at what happened to Washington State's medical cannabis program. Exactly. They wrote it into law with no taxes, and the moment the opportunity came up, they just wrote it out of law, and they did away with it because nobody was representing the patients because they weren't paying taxes. So now that it's kind of obvious that the states would be the most harmed, then followed by their employees, the cannabis business owners, what if anything can be done to drive the conversation with whomever is making this decision to a different, is there a way, if we can just assume descheduling will never happen for a second, for just the nature of this conversation, is there a schedule that allows the industry to function similar to the way we know it without harming all the state businesses?
That's it. Schedule one or deschedule.
Schedule one.
That's it. Schedule one or deschedule. There's only one answer, bro. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, if you deschedule it, it will be governed. Every state will govern the regulations like they do with alcohol. And that's really the only way you can do it. The horse is so far out of the barn at this point that you can't go back. You can't, I mean, well, I suppose you could. It would upend the entire industry. There would be chaos for a time. Yep. But I can tell you this, I am certain that those that are behind the rescheduling effort and to make this fall under the federal government's purview, I am certain that they've got a plan in place to turn this thing around very quickly. And that's the only way something like this gets this far. And the states will get their cut somehow. The federal government will figure out some way that this could happen, even though it is a medication and medications aren't taxed. They'll find some clever way to make everybody at the state level happy. But you have to understand, many of these states, while globally our industry is collecting a lot of tax revenue, most of the states, it's not a huge number. And it's not a number that the newer markets they've become used to. Like in New Jersey, okay, we're seeing some revenue, but it's a drop in the bucket compared to New Jersey's budget, So it hasn't reached the point yet where programs are in place that are specifically funded, by these tax dollars. I mean, you can maybe say California, but the market's been so chaotic over there, and it's kind of swung back towards the black market, and maybe their revenues aren't the same, and that's why the taxes go up. But California is it's its own little thing. But what we need to be most concerned about is the loss of our industry and the loss of control of our industry and the local control of our industry. Because hey, what works in Jersey may not work in Colorado, may not work in Massachusetts, may not work in California. And, it looks like California probably wouldn't work anywhere. So, what's great about this.
He's talking to you. He's talking to you, Jake.
California works in New York all day.
So listen, we had a question for you, Tony.
I think most enthusiasts in cannabis and most true enthusiasts and those that have a passion for cannabis in California, I'm fairly certain are not pleased with the way the market's all gone and the way it's been manipulated and taxed and sort of just, it's really all over the place over there. I think they would love to get it back to a different time, but I'm sorry, Dave, go ahead.
I just wanted to know if you would hire Adam and I and maybe Jason, because it looks like you might be the only business open. So I just want to get on your radar because, check this out right here, man, and you see what you get. We're fun at parties.
And that's how to those that sort of, I don't know what they think my agenda could be here, but I'm like John the Baptist trying to say to everybody, people, wake up. You don't understand what's happening to you. You don't understand. And when you do, it's too late.
No, they understand it. They don't believe it. Well, no one can believe as we sit here talking. I can't believe this is just mind-boggling that, but I'm not surprised that this could happen. I mean, look at the last 8 years. Jason would smile. Some of us would frown. It's just, oh my gosh. How did we get this far, so close to the end zone, and fumble the ball?
I can tell you how. That's really easy. That's a really easy job, is because we're too busy always fighting each other in all of these different points of contention instead of finding some type of common uniformity as an industry. There's a serious lack of government sophistication within the cannabis industry, and there's a serious overabundance of people always feeling like there's going to be someone to do the work for them in this industry, and that's why we're here.
Well, it's like when you go to any kind of when you go to Capitol Hill during the, like, we have to be there today, let's fucking get down there. You get down there, there's 12 people there. You know what I mean? It's like, of course.
Not to mention, a lot of them too look like clowns, and like they don't even show up for a ball game. They're not even in players' uniforms.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you an idea of how badly we as an industry have fumbled this, they didn't even have. Government came out and said, we're taking over the cannabis industry tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
What would everybody do?
I mean, they basically did. They basically did.
But well, they haven't yet. I mean, it hasn't happened yet. So there is still time. And, but if they said they were going to, you have so many loud voices who so want cannabis to be mainstream and so don't want it to be Schedule I, that they put the gun to our heads and shot it themselves. The government didn't have to do anything. They're like, okay, that's what you want, fine. You want us to take over? You want us to regulate cannabis as a Schedule III substance? That's what you're asking? Okay. Yeah. That's why it's been so easy. The declass, you have to, and because people, the loudest voices haven't been the most educated ones on this. And the rest of us, it's so overwhelming that you just don't believe it could possibly happen. Yeah, but think about it. We've done all the hard work over all these years from the ballot initiatives that have failed, and we fought and we've brought cannabis to the mainstream again. We've made it acceptable. We've demonstrated that it's not what you say it is. There is use to it. There's, if we had cannabis, the opiate crisis would have never happened. When we look back to what started the legalization fight in California, it was cannabis for dying cancer patients whose pain was uncontrollable by any other means.
Those
means back then.
HIV and AIDS. It was all the AIDS movement. It was all
AIDS. Yes. And, those opiates that didn't handle pain then are the exact same opiates that triggered the opiate crisis. And nobody talked about, what if we were using cannabis? Well, now we can. And not only can we use cannabis, but we can use cannabis in creative ways that we as dispensary owners and we as the industry dictate. Not the way the FDA dictates to us, not the way the DEA dictates to us. Let me explain something to everybody. If something is placed in that class, it becomes defined as the class. If cannabis is a Schedule III drug, and Schedule III drugs are subject to a 56-page book of regulations, then cannabis is subject to the book of, it's the commutative property of addition. And nobody's understanding that. They keep saying, oh, no, that's not going to happen, or this is my new favorite one. Well, they'll make a rule. Well, let me explain something to you about the rules, okay? First of all, the whole bureaucratic rulemaking thing is about to be struck down by the Supreme Court as part of the Chevron doctrine that's been in place for a long time that allows bureaucracies like the DEA or anybody else to write a rule outside of the legislative framework and have it have the full effect of law. But rules are only as good as the next president. Mm-hmm. The same way that Trump had a stay in Mexico policy and build the wall, Biden was elected, signed a paper, and away went that rule. The Controlled Substances Act is law. It's been passed by the legislative process and signed by a president. That's not a rule. It's only going to be changed through the legislative process, which is far different than even if this rule thing stands up and Chevron somehow doesn't get struck down, which it will. The rules are only as effective as the person who executes those laws. That's the president. So any president can come and wipe that rule away. And that exemption to cannabis would go away and it would continue to reside in that class. But you couldn't even change cannabis and treat it differently, because if you did, you would immediately what about the rest of the Schedule III drugs? The anabolic steroid people would say, well, wait a minute. Why is our Schedule III drug being treated differently? Why is ketamine being treated differently? Why is Suboxone being treated differently? It would trigger 1 million lawsuits. And in that time, cannabis would not be exempted. It would fight its way through the courts. And in the end, cannabis would have to be treated like all the rest, because you couldn't allow special rules within that class. So, you know, some of the other things that everybody could look forward to if this were to happen, every night I have to upload to the government something called the Prescription Drug Monitoring Program. Every controlled substance that I have dispensed between 12 a.m. and 11:59 p.m., your name, your address, all your patient data, which is required for you to get that controlled substance, you must provide it, goes right to the government every night, and it goes in a database. And every time someone wants to get a controlled substance, as a condition of my DEA registration, I must go onto this database, look you up, and say, wait a minute, you just got a drug yesterday. I can't give it to you again until the next month. Not 29 days, not 28 days, 30 days. That's the rule. That's what everybody would have to do every time they received a prescription for cannabis. You're only going to get that prescription if the doctor tells you you're going to get it. You're only going to be able to get cannabis if it conforms with whatever regulations it's been fit into the Schedule III regs. Everything as we know it, everything that we fought so hard for is done, and it becomes just another drug. That's it. And if you get caught with it on the street, you're going to jail.
Dave, if you thought living in Colorado was a mids market now, just wait till that happens.
Oh, well, you know, I lived most of my life in the gray, what they're calling the legacy market. I guess, you know, more than half the country goes back that direction. I just can't get there yet. I'm not there yet. I hear what Tony is saying. I hear the conclusions you're drawing, Jason.
I just agree with Tony on this, and
I know. Nothing he said is wrong. It's just we don't know. It was
what's not to know. That's how it works. What's not to know.
That's my point to everybody.
Yeah.
I'm not making predictions. I open up the book and go to where it says Schedule III drugs, and you just read it.
No, you're missing my point. I'm saying it just hasn't been done yet. It's a press release. Okay.
Correct. We have to stop it.
It's a press release.
Why I decided to speak up like I am now and get as vocal about this, because if somebody doesn't take this seriously, or our organizations continue to think that this is a good thing, they've lost their minds. I mean, you've got to stop. Everybody has to understand what they're asking for, because the majority of the people in the cannabis industry they're asking for this. They're ebullient over this, and it's like
that's only because they see the short term. They see themselves gaining 280E, which is loss, which is bullshit,
which is nothing.
Right?
It's
nothing.
You can have 280E. You can have 280E. I think that this is why aren't we holding our legislators to their feet to the fire and making them pass this? They can pass it. It's a Schedule I substance, which means there's no regulation. They don't declare it a drug with medical use, so the FDA is out of it. This is essentially like a more regulated over-the-counter supplement, like the old Humphreys remedies. Right, perfect. Nutraceutical would be the perfect way to describe it. A non-drug that's got all the benefits of a drug. But so we can say you can take indica for sleep. If it becomes Schedule III, you can't say that anymore. Not until the FDA has said, we've tested it. And, guys, something else that nobody's even thinking about. There's a distinct possibility that when this happens and the drug companies now own it, They mothball it away and forget about it and never do anything with it. They don't make the products anymore. Why would they? It competes with their other products. You know, there's
it's like a catch and kill news story against a certain politicians.
Yes.
Yeah, Jason.
I had to get that one in there, buddy.
But that's what it is. You know, you hear about this. Studios will buy a movie just to never let it be released.
Yep.
Yeah.
That could happen. That could happen. If they don't view cannabis to be profitable enough, they may just not do anything with it. They'll own the patents or whatever, and they'll just leave it on the shelf.
I hate you so much.
I was going to say, if anybody looks at the industry right now, they realize that cannabis, like right now, people on the outside looking in are like, see, it's not, they're losing money. It's not even making money. It's like, yeah, because they've got so many roadblocks along the way, and you have to do, you're literally paying through the nose. So yeah. What were we going to say, Jason?
I was just this. No. I was just going to say, these guys are trading this in the eyes of 280E, and it's all about them getting this. Oh, we're about to start making some money, and we're going to be able to write things off. And they don't understand any type or have the governmental affairs sophistication or regulatory affairs sophistication to understand what they are trading that in for. This is the biggest shuck and jive ever of us just handing over the cannabis industry directly to the pharmaceutical industry. And if you think that there's going to be quality products, then kiss that dream. Okay.
Well, it's like when we talk to the guys with alcohol that we're doing mixing between the alcohol and cannabis now. Mm-hmm. They have such more higher regulations because they're in alcohol, and they're dealing with the feds, and they're dealing with the FDA and things. So they already said right out of the gate, like, no, you're not going to gain anything. You're actually going to be paying more money because you're going to have to deal with them on multiple levels now because it's a legal thing. So it's become
right. You listen. That little bit of money that you're going to save, and everybody thinks, oh, well, I can write it off my taxes. You're saving 1/3. Yeah, that's it. You're getting 30% of whatever that expense is back. And I guarantee you, the cost of compliance with the DEA regulations, and then the cost of non-compliance with the DEA regulations. The DEA can walk in my pharmacy at any point in time, announce their presence, and start asking me. I have to stop what I'm doing. And I have to answer. I have to show them in real time what my inventory numbers look like. Mm-hmm. I have to show them there's a whole compliance portion to this. The costs of registration and compliance will eclipse any sort of savings that you think you're going to make with 280E. There is a possibility, and this is a 1% chance, but who knows, that this is a little bit of 3D chess, right? Because how long have we been trying to get the Safe Banking Act? They figure, okay, well, let's take a gamble here. We announced that we're going to reclassify it. If nobody says anything, great. We reclassify it, we seize the industry back, or we seize it, and we've paved the roads at this point. So it's all done. The industry's up, it's running, the infrastructure's there. The federal government just takes it over, plugs it in, and adapts it, applies it across all 50 states, territories, and whatever. Or
that ain't
they
happening.
say maybe
1%.
Maybe, if we scream loud enough, they fall back, and that's how they pressure our legislators to finally do the Safe Banking Act. That could be it.
Now, safe banking is already slated to get passed. It's gonna get ran through with the crypto bill, because all of the crypto bros want to invest into cannabis, and that's where the next round of funding is going to come for the cannabis.
Well, they're not going to want to invest if it goes to the federal government. But
I have a question for you. I have a question for you. So, in regards with this, if it goes to Schedule 3, okay, if we're going to Schedule 3, how are these taxes really going to work for all these cities, Tony? Because this is going to bankrupt a lot of municipalities, and it's going to destroy a lot of the SEIU unions that are counting on all of this money that they're fleecing from the cannabis industry right now.
No, there will be no money.
How are we going to get our fleece?
That's the legal term, fleece.
Yes, yeah, you can't. The money goes. You can't collect. You could, I guess, conceivably tax controlled substances or whatever. I don't know how you do it because you have to do it for. See, that's the thing. It doesn't stand alone. It's been reclassified. And by virtue of that reclassification, it is now part of a whole thing. That's the problem. So you can't just take one piece of it out and say, well, we're going to treat it differently, because then the other ones say, well, what about us? So, that's the problem. So, what are the state? I don't think anybody's anticipated it.
Well, there's also one other scenario too that could happen, Tony, that I haven't heard anybody say yet, and I think this is a possibility as far as like one of those crazy curveballs that you mentioned with the 1% or whatnot. But I think there's still a possibility that during the process that they elect to only put medical cannabis in and classify medical cannabis.
That's not the way it works. I'm going to give you an example. Morphine.
So that couldn't happen in any type of situation.
No situation. The substance is what goes.
Okay.
Morphine is a substance.
Hold on. That wouldn't make sense too, because then that would eliminate the hemp industry too, because under the Controlled Substances Act, it's all the definition of cannabis sativa L. So that would eliminate the hemp industry too, then what you're saying, by definition, because it would all be considered a Schedule III drug.
Unless there was some way to separate the CBD product, if they were to figure out some way to take the psychoactive. You basically would go back to the CBD thing that was a big thing about 10 years ago.
No, I'm not buying that one. I don't think it would play out like that.
You just got to go back 10 years. No big deal.
I'm talking about speculatively. There is no, but that's the thing. There's no way to do it. You can't just say, well, there's medical cannabis and rec. Well, no, that's not true.
That's my point.
But wait, there's ibuprofen I could buy in a gas station and in a Rite Aid. And then there's Motrin prescribed by a doctor.
That's true. But in that situation, first of all, that is a drug. It is regulated. It has no matter if it's gas station or Rite Aid. Why don't we say Bell Pharmacy and at least get my pharmacy plug?
There you go. Bell Pharmacy.
Yeah, let's do that.
The Bell Pharmacy ibuprofen. We saw. There's the prescription strength, which is 4, 6, and 800 milligrams. What you get at a gas station or at Bell Pharmacy over the counter is 200 milligrams. Now, of course, you could take, double it, and then it's the prescription strength. But that drug has undergone FDA approval. Jason, I think you bumped onto the mute. There you go. It's become a what happened, but that drug has gone through the FDA approval process, and it had to go through an FDA approval process to be taken from prescription to over the counter. For instance, Claritin, Flonase, these were all drugs that were once prescription. They went through an FDA process to be over the counter. And that was only after many years of established data demonstrating that this drug, if we sold it at half strength, or like in Flonase's case, if we sold it at full strength, there's no harm to it. You can't hurt yourself or take too much, but it's an FDA call at that point. So you can't say, okay, well, we'll make the cannabis half strength or half quantity, because there's no FDA guide to it. We don't know what a full strength, we don't know what the 4, 6, and 800 milligram of cannabis would be that we could then half it. That's how you get these over-the-counter formulations. That's only after years of data and safety profiles having been developed. And then, of course, it going through the FDA process originally, years of data, and then the FDA process, again, analyzing those years of data. So your thinking is good. That's a great question. How do you square that circle? It's because you don't understand what's going on behind all of that. It doesn't, it's not like, oh, well, you could just buy it here. And then you got to go back to the criminalization of it. Every state would have to go in and try to recriminalize or decriminalize a Schedule III. But if you do that, well, all the people that got busted for anabolic steroids, Suboxone, ketamine, now they all have to be. So you got to either empty the jail. You actually reversed it from where cannabis used to be, where it was the cannabis offenders that have now been the beneficiaries of being let out when we've decriminalized it. If you decriminalize a Schedule III, you have to decriminalize all of that class, and then all of those offenders would then become subject to being released or being treated like we did when we legalized cannabis. But you're into fighting with an octopus if you think you're going to ever get through this, and it has to stop. It has to be. First of all, you have to ask them to hold.
Pause for a sec, Tony. Who do we ask? So if we can direct this now, since we're getting to the top of the hour, who in our local governments or state governments or Fed, who are we supposed to write to now? Because you're saying we got to reach out to someone. Who is that person? Like who changes the classification?
Listen, you can contact the DEA. They take comment. I'm hoping that before they activate this rule, if it follows the quote rulemaking process, there is a public comment period. They do listen and take. Ironically, I did see that the conservative groups are already lining up to fight this because they don't want it normalized. How ironic is it that their fight, even though they're not fighting the same thing that we're fighting, but it's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree with their position 100%, but I will support their effort to see it remain Schedule 100%.
You needed to say earmuffs to Beck before you said that. You had to tell him to turn his,
But but that's where we are. We don't have the infrastructure to do this. Typically, you're relying on the top of your industry, your big players. I don't know that they really care if this goes scheduled.
The big players are gassing the administration, saying that they want this.
Yeah,
because I think there's a cash out play for them that they already know.
That's all they've been playing for. That's the only reason they set this thing up, was they've been waiting for this moment.
Here's the answer to the question we have asked. How does a company like Planet 13 lose $47 million a day?
1,000, not million.
$47,000 a day. Excuse me.
Larry got money, bro. Because Larry got money. That's why. Larry got money.
But Larry it's not. It's untenable. How do you open up? What wasn't Curaleaf's mantra? I'm going to open up a dispensary every Friday. This is True Leaf. Excuse me. And so it's. They knew
and then
something.
Start closing one every Thursday a week after.
Yeah.
Start closing. It's like open one and close one.
But folks, just to give you an idea, the one thing that prevents us from being dominated by 5 MSOs is the fact that the money can't enter the system. That's the thing. Is it horrible? My sister and I had to come up with $1 million to open this dispensary of our own. We did it over a period of years, and that's not easy. And it is a barrier to entry because it's hard and it's expensive. But guess what?
Recording
the big companies, Amazon's never going to sell cannabis because they can't mix the money. Same thing with the chain drugstores. Same thing with the Costcos and the Walmarts. Big business can't get in this. They're kept out by the fact that they can't mix the money. That's what's allowing the independents to thrive. The minute that those barriers come down and the corporate money can invest, we're going to be in a fight as independent owners against big business again. Now, I think we win that fight because the cannabis consumer is more dedicated to the independent. In fact, believe it or not, most consumers are more dedicated to independents. That's why our pharmacy is 90-something years old. But especially in cannabis, it's about relationships. It's about community. You don't get that at big business. I don't know of many that would select an MSO over an independent operator. They want to go to the independent operator that caters to them. Honestly, this business is just something I've learned about it. I thought it was more retail based. It's not. You know what it is? It's hospitality. 100%.
It is. 100%.
And the reason that we do well in it is I have an extensive history in culinary arts and fine dining. And I noticed before we opened and just watching, the closer I got to opening, I said, we've got to pivot. This has to be treated like a high-end dining experience. It's all the same product. Curaleaf sells the same product that we sell. We don't sell some Curaleaf's product, but right now, in Jersey, we have mostly MSOs. We're getting the.
I wouldn't say that out loud like that. I might not say that we sell the same stuff that
in the Jersey market, because there's only the MSOs. Now the independents are coming online, and we do have a dedication to the independents. Garden Greens, for instance, much better product, and we say that. We curate from the MSOs and get the best product you can from an MSO, but what makes the difference is the experience, and it's all about the customer. That goes away if it becomes a federally regulated drug. You can't cater to them. You're catering to the regs, and you're imposing that on your patients and your customers. We don't want that. We shouldn't want that. The consumer shouldn't want that. The consumer shouldn't want to have to go to a doctor and pay a doctor to get a prescription that's only going to be good for 6 months. That's it. You don't get a card. A card let you get it forever. If it's prescription, 6 months. And you got to go back and get another one every 6 months. That's it. That's the regs. That's what happens if it's Schedule 3.
With Schedule 3 also, what happens with, for instance, advertising and promotion and things like that? Like you can't really make, like you can't have flashy packaging. You could have
commercials. Look at every
commercials, but they have to look like the Sky Rizzy or that annoying one on the Jardiance commercial.
Do you have moderate to severe cannabis addiction?
You're gonna have AI cannabis commercials.
Yeah, but so the packaging can't be like we have right now.
There's not going to be a packaging. It's going to come in something that's going to be dispensed in a prescription vial. Yep. It's something that I do for patients who, if they're going on a plane, I get the cannabis and I put it in a prescription vial with a label on it, so it looks like it's an actual prescription medication. I could do that because we own a pharmacy, but
like that.
But no, it's going to have to all be packaged like a prescription. Everything is going to look just like the prescription you get from Rite Aid.
That's horrible. Yeah.
So we basically solved nothing.
No, we haven't. But I was going to say it's also interesting too, because I brought it up before, how Walgreens, that's how it started. You know what I mean? That's how they were basically giving people alcohol when they needed it, because they got their alcohol. They go down and get their alcohol prescription and go down to Walgreens and pick up that. And so that's kind of where their whole formula was back in the day. Now all of a sudden it's like, hey, we modernized it,
Yeah, well, the prescription for alcohol was different. That was so people could get alcohol, which wasn't allowed at all. It's not really congruent, but cannabis will be allowed only with a prescription. So alcohol was prohibited unless you had a medical prescription. So alcohol was kind of like cannabis back when we first started medical cannabis way back.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, much more like the medical side for sure.
Well, I think where we're leaving this is everybody needs to contact their congressperson, their senator, and if you got the steel cojones, you can call the DEA and let them know your opinion.
Yeah, give them a call.
Give them a call. Everybody should call as Jason Beck.
Yes,
we're all Jason
Beck
Beck
from High at 9 News, and I need to talk to your superior.
I'm all good with that. You could totally tell them that.
Listen, we've worked too hard to give it up when it's in our hands finally, and that's the bottom line. Right. It's the bottom line. This belongs to us as a community. It should never belong to the federal government.
I'm hoping it was a bluff. I'm hoping they were like, let's see what they say. But again, you hope is it's a death sentence, I guess, to have in this industry.
And the bad part is the average person just thinks it's a good thing, and they see it as on every late night talk show, it's like the audience goes nuts. You know what I mean? He says, "Yeah, look they're going to do Schedule 3, woo!" And everybody goes crazy because they don't know. They think
all this should tell you something. Nothing is by accident.
Well,
just remember that.
What it should also tell you too is that this administration has gaslit the cannabis industry more times than any other industry in the history of presidencies.
Yeah. Oh, I know. We've been promised so many things along the way, and It's just been
no
like
one got out of
slow...
jail from any pardons. Like it's all a bunch of little nothings.
Yeah. And
the
all
quote
those...
was from Kamala Harris, vice president, at least I think she still is, that under a Biden Harris administration, they will reform cannabis. This is not reforming it. This is telling everyone it's bend over or approach the wall, two hands on the wall.
She always was a prosecutor.
Yes, she put more people in jail than anybody in California ever. Yep. President Clinton, not Hillary, put more people in jail for cannabis than all presidents added up prior to his administration. The Democrats
I've been raided 3 times by the DEA, okay? Once under Bush and twice under Obama.
It's ridiculous. But we've talked about this. The federal government has one and only one mission, and that is to make as much money as they can. Right. And we are their employees. They don't work for us. Don't think that for a second. We are their employees. And I'm not making light of this situation. This really needs to be something we talk about. But you have to just laugh at its utter stupidity of how everything is going down and how we are kind of culpable in giving them the roadmap for how to fuck us over. And then we're just going to stand there silent. Now's the time. You got to call your congressperson. You got to call your senator. And there's going to be a GoFundMe campaign for security for Tony, because if they just got this Boeing whistleblower killed, then Big Pharma is fucking coming for you. I'm sorry. I'm not telling you something you didn't know, Rand. You got the guns going, So if you need any nutrition advice, I can help you out, no problem.
Well, Dave, my Camden community loves me. I don't know if you know about Camden, but we come from tough stock down there. And all I could say is if they come walking into Camden, they better bring friends. So, right. And remember, to everybody out there, remember what Ronald Reagan said, and it's not don't say no. The scariest words you'll ever hear are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. And I think that's the best way we can close that. That's exactly what's just happened. Remember, that should scare the shit out of every one of us.
Well, thank you for your time. I know you must have had a gajillion calls. You are welcome back on the show at any time. In fact, we should probably have a regular segment with you on.
Thank you. I would love to do it. Yeah. I think you guys are great. Such a natural flow with all this. I'd love to be a regular on the show.
And it has to be an exclusive. If anyone from High at 9 calls you or the Danny Danko show, you tell them no, you can't do it. Well, not going to happen. I already see Jason salivating. He's like, fuck out.
Because High at 9 News is America's #1 daily news show.
Foam finger #1. Foam
finger #1 on the East Coast every Monday through Friday.
There you go. And how do people, do you have do you want to give your website out for Bell Pharmacies? Maybe they'll order some ibuprofen.
No, but I mean, if you want to visit our website, CamdenApothecary.com, you can see a little bit about us there. Of course, I'm on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is Anthony Minniti. If you want to post those links up, I'm fine with that. Feel free to email me, message me. So many have. I've picked up 500 invitations just in the last 24 hours, and my email is always full with, and I try my best to answer every one of them. I hope to just educate, because I do love what we've built together as a community, and I'm offended that the government at this point, when they could have helped us so long ago, now wants to come in and take this from us after we've earned it. And I think that should never be allowed to happen. That's why I say, look, I'll take declassification. That's the better alternative. But I hate to say it, even with all the problems of 280E, we're so much better off the way it is. We don't even understand. I understand how much better off we are, because I don't want to turn what this is over to that pharmacy side. I've seen both. I've been through both. I don't want that for us.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, guys. Jason, thank you for your time. Tony, thank you.
You can join us a little later if you want, Jason. We'll be back.
Yeah, we're going to be live at 5:20.
Hey, I'll be judging some Emerald Cup entries, so I'll come on while I'm judging the Emerald Cup with you guys.
Sounds
there
great.
we go. Your other alter ego. You come in with your alter ego.
Yes.
All right.
Dave, Adam, Jason, again, thank you so much. And to everybody, please educate yourselves before you advocate, and then advocate for yourselves.
Thank you.
Sounds good, man. Thanks, guys.
All right, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
And cut.
Hey,
It worked. Holy shit.
This time it worked. Last time we fucked it
Holy
all.
moly. This is a historical moment right now. Right? I mean, mark the time in the ship's log telly. The Adam Dunn show recorded something ahead of time.
Wow.
Damn. Well, we had to. He was actually going to a fundraiser in Jersey tonight, and listening to him say that he had 500 invitations on LinkedIn. His dance card was going to be quite full. But the listeners will know we signed him for an exclusive deal, 12 years.
12-year exclusive, exactly.
Can't do any other shows or anything like that. But yeah, wow, that was a lively discussion. I'm still fucking Chicken Little, but with a smile on my face.
Well, I mean, it's just good to know that more people know. It's like one of those, you just got to get shared. It's not just us going like, oh, you guys are just so lame. There are so many people who want to get in on this discussion. So Brian Vicente will be joining us in a little. Who's that we have up there? Remind me again.
Avis.
Oh, what's going on, Avis? So Avis is the one that sent me the information on, was it Oregon's state report?
No, it was a national state industry.
There we go. And then there's Brian Vicente, I mean, who I would say normally needs no introduction, but you've been in this industry for over a decade. You've been advising businesses, individuals, state legislatures, the federal government. So you can bring a perspective to this guessing game that we'll call it, because that's really what it is. And I'm still gonna hope it's a feint by the federal government to just sort of deke us a little bit and see what we do, and really echo what Tony said, that we need to be calling everybody that we feel comfortable calling. I'm not going to tell anybody to call the DEA, but maybe you call your representative and have them call the DEA. But thank you guys for joining. Maybe give us a minute or two. Avis, why don't you start? Give us a bit of your bio, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So I started in the space back in 06, 07. In California, started off on the cultivation side. Branched off into manufacturing, into retail. In 2012, got involved in the role of state licensing with Massachusetts. We had the highest score there. We're the only group that got 3 out of 3. From there, went across and we were pretty successful on the state licensing side. Nevada, Illinois, Pennsylvania, New York, we missed it by 3 points. Then started advising. In California, I was asked to take over as president of the LA Cannabis Task Force. Did that for about 3-4 years. I was appointed to the state advisory board that advised the 3 state agencies on the development of the regulations out here. So did that for about 3-4 years. And yeah, we've been involved from licensing to operations to supporting lobbying efforts.
Appreciate it. Across the country. And this is Colin Mudd. Mudd, right?
Yeah.
It's his real name. I'm not making it up.
My name is.
His name is Colin Mudd. He was the compliance officer for Incredibles Edibles for what, a decade or?
Not quite. 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah, 8 years.
So
that's more than a decade in canny years.
Okay.
There's multiplications.
Yeah,
there,
for sure. And so again, this is a topic. Let's just throw it out there, Brian. What is the sky fucking falling? Are we fucking done? When you decided I'm going to get into cannabis law and my whole career is going to be that, did you think your career would only be 10 years long?
Yeah, the funny thing is, and I'm bummed I'm not in the studio with you guys because I've been down there before and it's a good time, but I've actually, this is my 20th year doing cannabis law full-time in Colorado, and this is going to be a colorful discussion because our office, we actually worked with the White House on this rescheduling and like all the stakeholders that are involved, so I actually think it's a good thing, and I can explain why, and we can have different viewpoints on that as friends, but
now we really wish you were down here.
Well,
getting super high. We'd be like,
cut his feet off, Mark.
Smoke another, do another dab. Let's see if we can get it.
It's not a DMT pen we're handing you right
now. I mean, I'll say this, guys, and I've been doing this for a long time, and like it's an incremental move. When we legalized cannabis in Colorado, and I wrote that law and I ran the campaign with Mason Tvert, we didn't say that was the end game. We said that was progress, right? And I believe that rescheduling is progress. It's for the first time in 50 years, the federal government has recognized that cannabis has medical value, right? They've put in place a motion process to put it in a lower tier. And at the same time, if they do that, it'll give a massive tax deduction to cannabis businesses. So I don't believe that this will end up selling cannabis in pharmacies. I don't think that's the end goal. The end goal is descheduling. I could totally agree with the gentleman from New Jersey who was speaking earlier. We do need to deschedule, but the path to descheduling involves probably rescheduling to Schedule 3. We got to take these incremental reforms as they come. And I don't think the FDA is going to jump in and shut down state legal operators. They haven't done so far. We've been selling cannabis in Colorado since the late 2000s, right, at medical stores, and they haven't shut them down yet. Why would they do that now?
Because they didn't have a foothold.
Well, I was just going to say, do you have to reschedule to deschedule? Because that seems like it's almost like whenever anything goes into a certain position, it takes a lot to get it ever back out, and that's always it's never that easy. You never seen a situation where they're like, oh, don't worry about it, we're going to write this law, but it's going to be easy to change. It's never it's always hard. So
no one ever.
So I have
that's fair. You don't have to reschedule to deschedule.
Right.
It's not the perfect answer, but I think it does make things a lot easier for cannabis businesses that won't have to pay taxes. And maybe Avis can speak a bit about that, how 280 affects it. Go ahead.
Then tell us the timeline you see, because Tony painted a very bleak picture for us, and it wasn't. I will say it was a dark past 2 hours. I'm trying to laugh it through, but it's you just got dumped, the night before prom or something like that, and you're like, well, yeah. I don't know how to feel right now. I feel terrible, but maybe I should look at this fuck, I didn't want to go with her anyway. But he really painted a bleak picture. So how do you see Schedule 3 working, knowing that Incredibles still sells chocolate bars right now, and 14er is still a dispensary?
I don't think it changes the state system in any state at all. We have 24 state laws with recreational, about 40 with medical. Right? They've been operating for decades. When cannabis was Schedule 1, right next to heroin, as the most dangerous substance in the world, the federal government let them operate, even though it's the most dangerous thing in the world. Now it's moved to Schedule 3, where it has medical value according to the federal government, and it's not as dangerous. Right? Now, at the same time, when you look at the movement, we're going to legalize cannabis this year in South Dakota and Florida. That gets us, most likely, in November, right? That gets us to 26 states, and we're going to keep doing it. I'm on the board of the Marijuana Policy Project, a nonprofit. We're going to keep changing state laws until there's enough pressure at the federal level to deschedule, right? So there's the state level advocacy that's going to continue on, and then there's federal changes like this. This is what the Biden administration was willing to do. I think it's a step forward. It's not the step we want, 10 steps forward to full, but it's going to accelerate the movement. Other states will recognize cannabis is no longer Schedule 1, we're in the feds. Schedule 3, maybe we should look at doing something in Indiana and Idaho and all these states that have terrible laws because they're not being told by the boogeyman that cannabis is the most dangerous thing in the world in the federal government. So I think it's going to accelerate the state movement, which will create pressure on the federal government to go even further. How quickly does that happen? 3 years, 4 years, but I think it's coming.
I mean, the scary part in my mind is just the fact that now it's recognized, meaning it's okay, now it opens the door for much more from the pharmaceutical point of view and much less from our benefit, because we're already doing what we're doing. Like you said, nothing's going to change in our world, but behind the scenes, I just see it changing much quicker. Where we've always had this, everybody's heard about, Philip Morris has grows. 20 years ago, we heard this. Oh, they got grows and they're learning and they're going to take every single strain, and of course that hasn't happened. But it's also because of the federal issue. It's always been based on the federal. Every single chat I've ever met, every guy I've never wanted in the industry is what I've talked to has said, when it gets federal, I'm going in all full steam. You'll be so far behind the ball if you do that. thank you. You know what I mean? But this is where I see it opening the door to those people who are like, okay. So I don't see the right money coming in. I see the wrong money coming in from this. It's what I see. I don't know if it's.
Well, what does that look like, though, Adam? I mean, in order to get a Schedule 3 drug, like if we move it to Schedule 3, which we have about 90 days to figure out if the feds are going to do that. They haven't done it. They just announced the process.
You just killed me.
Oh my God. In the summer. When
90 days? I thought we had a few fucking years. 90 days.
No.
Oh,
90 days. Panic attack. Middle of the summer. Everyone's on vacation.
I need fruit.
Push it through.
Before the election. Right? It's going to be before the election.
Before
but then in order to, it's not like then cannabis can be prescribed. It has to then go through clinical trials at the federal level, which costs tens or hundreds of millions of dollars.
And 5 years for that?
For products, not botanicals. Like they're not going to, it's not like they can take a bud and put it through clinical trials the way they do with other drugs that are in the scheduling system. It's going to have to be some sort of pills or things of that nature. That'll take years to work their way through the system, which gives us time to continue to work on state level reform and lobby to get the whole enchilada.
Yeah, to kind of jump in on some of the stuff, you also have to look at what the implications are. See, if we're talking about descheduling, which in my report, I said, look, Schedule 3 is kind of prohibition rebranded, but if you were to go into a descheduling environment, descheduling would actually open up the floodgates to those bigger businesses that you're talking about that would come in and start dominating because there's nothing preventing them from doing it. Schedule 3 kind of also slows that out. The more I think about it, Schedule 3 is kind of a more balanced approach because when you look at the product, right now we've got medical and we've got adult use. The only difference between medical and adult use right now is the intent of the use and the taxes that come with it, whether you're purchasing it through the medical program or the adult use program in your state. So now when you go Schedule 3, nothing changes fundamentally or structurally with the state markets that we've got in place. The state license holders can't participate in developing out a Schedule 3 drug and having it go through the pharmacies and the FDAs. They just don't have the appropriate licensure for it. So now what ends up happening is Schedule 3 bifurcates the market. You've got medical, which becomes more traditional medical, where you're talking about FDA approval, everything that it takes to take a drug to market. And that's not going to include the state license holders. So now you've got the state license holders. For all intents and purposes, it's going to be business as usual, with the difference being that you're not dealing with 280E right now. The only thing the state license holders need at a minimum is safe banking to be able to open up that banking access and the uplisting possibilities. And if you get something like the States Act that comes in, you effectively have a descheduled environment. You've got medical that goes to traditional pharma, and what we call medical and adult use kind of gets consolidated into more of a nutraceutical type of an industry. When the doctors prescribe it, when it's a Schedule 3, which by the way, you're probably not going to see any Schedule 3 drugs for the next 3 to 5 years. It just takes that long to take a drug to market. They're not going to prescribe flour. You're not going to go to a pharmacy to pick up your flour. You're talking about more traditional. Right now, you've got 3 drugs that are already THC based. Those are synthetic. You probably have a little bit more natural of a version of it, but those are the drugs that the doctors will prescribe, the pharmaceutical companies will produce, and the customer will go and purchase from the pharmacy. But that's not going to change the state markets. It's not going to change the dispensary structure. It's not going to change the edibles market. It's not going to change the big ag cultivation sector. That's just going to be business as usual. The only thing is, besides Schedule 3, you kind of need something like safe banking or the States Act to kind of preserve the state rights. But that's all that's really going to end up happening. So I'm not seeing it as the end of the world type of a situation.
Okay, wait.
No, I would agree with that, though.
What's a Schedule 3 drug that one could cultivate at home?
I kind of asked the same question to Colin. Is there any other supplements that have as much active ingredient crossover with their like drug counterpart as cannabis does, just so naturally?
I don't, can I then go home and synthesize ketamine? Could I make, that's a Schedule 3, right?
Or ketamine.
Or what?
I said or ketamine.
Oh, did I pronounce it wrong? No. Yeah. What did I do that a lot. Don't worry. I'll give you many more things to make fun of me other than how I pronounce ketamine.
Yeah, or anabolic steroids or any of the Suboxone or any of the things that are in that in that category. It's like, okay, they're all things that are manufactured in facilities that are not anything like a guy growing cannabis at home. And that's the problem, is if you go against the home, like all it takes is for them to turn the screws on home growers, which then what? Then we're like, you have to buy it at the shop now because the shops now are getting the tax money. Because that's the scariest part for us as growers and as people that are involved on that level. Once you take away the home growing side of it all, then we get into
that's more of a state's issue. That becomes more of a state issue than something for the feds to be able to think. Now, here's another implication.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about like if you're growing tobacco. Say if I grow tobacco right now at my house, I grow 20 plants of tobacco, and I'm like, holy shit, this stuff's really good. It's a lot better than that Philip Morris bullshit. Yeah. I start selling it to my friends. ATF comes in, kicks in my doors because I'm growing tobacco. And I'm like, oh shit, what's up? They're like, you can't grow tobacco at your house. What are you, crazy? And I'm like, what do you mean? Oh yeah, you can grow, just like with cannabis, you can grow X amount at your house. Is that going to get to that level? Because right now nobody's.
I think it does. If it gets descheduled. You have state laws that protect those actions. Like we have state criminal code and we have federal criminal code. What we're talking about is changing the federal criminal and the federal laws generally. This wouldn't actually change the criminal law, but the state laws will still be in place. I mean, we've had medical in Colorado since 2000. Like, it's not going to change if the feds decriminalize cannabis all the way, but we're still going to have our state laws around that. And look at it like alcohol. Like, I can brew beer at my house, but I can't start selling. I can't just sell it out of my garage, And maybe you think that should happen. Maybe you do. That's a legitimate point, but that's not how the laws are written. It's a controlled substance that's outside of the Controlled Substances Act, which is where we're arguing to move cannabis. Right? Ultimately, we'll be out of there. Where alcohol is and tobacco is, where it's just not in the CSA.
Brian, I wanted to ask you
home
this.
Home grow has a couple of aspects to it. You've got home grow where you're cultivating for your personal use. That's one thing. You have growing and the ability to give it away for free to your friends and family. Then you've got the other aspect of it is where you're growing it. Now you're conducting a commercial transaction, which any state that has some sort of a licensing program, that's what's not allowed. You can't grow it and participate and transact without that commercial cannabis license.
And Tony called it a DEA license. He said the moment it goes Schedule 3, you have to have a DEA distribution license, and it would preclude 90% of the industry and everyone that has a felony conviction.
90% of the industry.
I don't. Anthony is not a lawyer. He has a lot of views on these topics, but the DEA licenses
the bow.
Like pharmacies have DEA licenses to sell products, but when cannabis moves to Schedule 3, it can't just be automatically sold through pharmacies. It can't. It has to go through the FDA trial system in order to get a cannabis.
But that's our question, Brian.
Yeah, and
what happens during that time? Or do they just say, "We'll stay open and continue to sell a federally illegal Schedule 3 controlled substance"? And by the way, I hear you want to now take advantage of not paying 280E penalties anymore. So you're kind of admitting you're part of the Schedule 3 right now. Okay, you're fucked.
I mean, when it was Schedule 1, they didn't enforce laws for years, right? I think we'll see another memo. Like, you guys remember the Cole memo, right? We legalized weed, and we're like, oh shit, what's the feds going to do? And the feds issued a memo saying, you are operating under state law. We're not going to come after you, right? Trump rescinded that. But we still haven't seen our shops and our friends shut down. I believe we'll see another Cole memo. In fact, Congress has been talking about this, that basically says, listen, these state legal businesses can keep doing what they're doing. It's not the priority of the federal government to come after them. And I just don't think there's the will to shut down these state programs.
I know I should have known this, but I'm now old, realizing that Trump rescinded the Cole Memorandum. I mean, I brought this up on a talk show we were on last night, saying
Jeff Sessions, remember that guy?
Oh, yeah. You know what, Brian? You owe us $100 now for saying his fucking name. Holy fuck! I can't believe you would say his name. That guy, he ruined my life. What are you talking about? We'd be in a huge studio with lights and production and camera people and everything. I'd have rang the bell when Calyx went public on the market, the second quarter of Clinton's administration.
Wow.
Okay.
Brian, I wanted to ask you something because I think you're more versed than I am to talk about this. But when Telly and I were talking earlier, and he wanted me to have some time on the show, the point that I had made when this came out is kind of similar to what you're saying. Like, I think 280E goes away. Hopefully, I think that seems to be a general consensus. But then, when it's in Schedule 3, my question is am I understanding it correctly to say that it's easier to research under Schedule 3? There's more opportunities for for research to be done on cannabis, period. And I think also like compartmentalizing the conversation to say cannabis is flower, it's hash, it's edibles, it's isolated cannabinoids. The reason why I asked that is just because it seems like what they've done in the past is reschedule cannabinoids. So like the synthetic THC Marinol is Schedule 4, Epidiolex, CBD Schedule 5. If I'm still hopeful that this could happen, but with research in the Schedule 3 realm, 3 to 5 years, we have more credible data to say to lawmakers, like obviously what we all know, that this is not the big bad wolf that everybody thought it was. But is it too hopeful to think that there's going to be credible, positive research comes out of this over the next 3 to 5 years? And like you said, we've got some time to figure out from a state level as well as the federal level, like how this is going to be regulated, but like defining what this is, like, yeah, like that. And I'll let you answer that, but I'm curious.
Yeah. I mean, the short answer is like, yes, it will make it easier for people to research the substance because it's Schedule 3 instead of Schedule 1. Do I think it'll be like a massive shift and the feds will make it super easy to study cannabis? Unfortunately not. Like, I just don't think they're going to open the floodgates, but they have loosened up in the last several years in terms of allowing. I think they went from like 1 federal, grow in Mississippi to like 10, nationally that are studying this issue. And we represent some of those folks that are looking at this, that are studying this.
Can you get us a tour?
They're all slanging packs out the back door.
Can you get us a tour?
I'll do what I can. But so I think it's going to loosen it up. And I do think 280E, I'd be curious to hear from you, my friend. Incredibles, what a company, right? I mean, like effective tax rate for many of my clients, they pay, I complain because I personally have to pay 30% taxes to the feds, but my clients have to pay like 75%.
Sure. After
this changes, it's going to go down considerably and they'll be able to run profitable businesses. Is that on what's incredible sort of take on that, or what's your
view?
View?
You're going to have to ask Ben at GTI for that now, because they own the brand, right? It was probably already a topic of conversation when TrueLeaf came out earlier this year saying that they got that refund from the IRS and whether or not medical sales had anything to do with collecting 280E or not. And I think Kim, the CEO, said publicly that she wasn't going to talk about why they got that refund and it was proprietary information, but I think others have gotten the refund too. So I can't, to be honest, I can't really speak anymore for Incredibles, but I'm hopeful that it's a benefit to the industry, like an immediate benefit to the industry as a whole, medical or recreational. And I think one thing I just wanted to get your opinion on, and Avis, you too, but also, Adam and Dave, I'm curious what you guys think. But my take on this was nothing really changes. We're going to still, stay the course. 280E puts a more beneficial bottom line to the existing operators, regardless of medical or rec. But I think we have an opportunity now to kind of hang our hat on the research that comes from Schedule 3 from a federal level. Tony talked more about federal regulations, and my expertise is from a state level. And so, I'm hopeful that it's a benefit to the industry immediately from dropping 280E, but aside from that, nothing really will change. That research that I mentioned, I feel like we'll go down the route of having more data to say we should deschedule the plant, deschedule hash, deschedule edibles, and create a framework around selling just those products outside of the pharmaceutical world. But I feel as though we're going down a path that if the research is credible enough in Schedule 3, we could see pharmaceutical companies isolating cannabinoids synthetically or creating them naturally, but then ratios to treat, prevent, or cure disease. And the medical side of the industry kind of just gets absorbed in to the rec side, and medical eventually maybe at Tony's Apothecary, where you're buying a pill, a patch, an injection for a specific cannabinoid ratio to treat, cure, prevent a specific disease. That doesn't necessarily take away anything that we're doing. Hopefully it allows home grow, just like you can home brew, grow some tobacco plants. Ideally, I think that's the case where you keep the state structure as is. And the only reason why I say that too is just looking at Epidiolex. That's an isolated, that's CBD isolate as a Schedule 5. And then the synthetic version of THC is Schedule 4. That's saying that there's medical benefit, but you're just buying that molecule, like in a pill form or a liquid form or whatever, but you're not using that recreationally. And I also wanted to ask too, if I remember correctly, I was trying to do a bunch of research. Telly asked me to come on a couple days ago, and I got a 3-month-old at home, and this is a vacation for me right now. But didn't the FDA say at the beginning of last year that Congress needs to come up with a new framework to regulate?
They sure did.
Hemp, cannabis, like what was I? And so at that point, I think that does lean more toward, okay, we're going to deschedule cannabis and defining cannabis as the plant, hash, edibles, drinks, tinctures, patches, whatever. But then it allows them, unfortunately, fortunately, however you want to look at it, them being pharmaceutical, to say, we're going to take your cannabinoids, we're going to make some ratios, we're going to synthetically produce this to treat, prevent, or cure disease. What's your opinion on that?
Before you said, if I remember what you're talking about, and I think it was like a more of a FDA saying to Congress, get your heads out of your asses.
Yeah.
Because if you force us to do something about it, no one is going to like the outcome.
But then also admitting, how are they going to regulate this thing that is unlike anything else? Like and we have to, I think, yeah, like I said, compartmentalize and say cannabis is hash, is edibles, including hemp-derived cannabis too. Like that's part of hemp-derived cannabinoids. And then having that conversation to be like, are we just lumping this all to say biomass and its constituents are ATFM, like alcohol, tobacco, firearms, marijuana, or ATFC, whatever. Like, because it should be descheduled, right? We can all agree on that. But I just want to get your take on, do you think that's a relative, I think it's relatively positive, but is it
possible?
Is it possible?
I'll address a piece of that, and then I'm happy to hear from Davis and others. I mean, at the end of the day, we've corresponded with the FDA on this, and they've made public comments. They don't want to get involved in regulating cannabis. They haven't so far. They haven't done it for hemp. And you think about like a market that's run wild across our country is the intoxicating hemp market. And they don't have the money nor the enforcement mechanism to like come in and shut a bunch of people down. So I just think like the FDA is concerned with pharmacies, and I don't see them like getting the funding, the interest, or the will to like suddenly come in and regulate our state cannabis businesses.
Yeah, and it would be, and I guess that, like, to preface that, it would be an additional layer, right? Like, it would be still, and the reason why I think that too is because I think Hickenlooper, Senator Hickenlooper, through CPEER, put out that memo a year ago, 2 years ago, that they want to make sure that they include the state regulatory framework when they talk about federal legalization. Good, bad, or indifferent. I think the reason why he did that too is he did it through Andrew Friedman, who used to be his cannabis czar, like the original, cannabis czar with Hickenlooper before he left. And now Ian is the cannabis czar for Polis.
Telly can speak to this probably better than anyone. Hickenlooper was shitty on cannabis.
No, you're right. And that's the point, is like, it was really interesting to see that through that coalition, the CPEER, I forget what it stands. I'm going to look it up on my phone. But he said, we're recommending to take advantage of the existing state framework, and then we're just adding an additional layer for anybody that wants to deal with, essentially I think it's like dealing with interstate commerce, right? Like I think federal legalization for a lot of people equals interstate commerce. So
when we get there,
when we will,
I don't know I'm having fun. And Brian, no, you finish before I take it off in another direction.
So I had a question, because I was a little bit unaware until I talked to Colin before the show. I was sort of under the assumption that if our rec systems are just going to be as federally illegal as they are now under Schedule 3, why would they drop to 80E for us? And Colin had told me that it was only for Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 drugs is what 280 applied for. So it would just automatically be dropped Okay, cool.
Yeah, which is giant. I mean, it's just giant, right? It's going to breathe hundreds of millions of dollars into cannabis businesses, large and small, mom and pops, and green thumb industry, and other people out there that are big are going to have a lot more money, and those guys have had their necks on the lines for a long time, servicing patients and others. So, I mean,
that's the most encouraging thing.
Hold on, I'm going to be Chicken Little here for a second. You said it. There's going to be a lot more money coming into the cannabis industry, and a lot of cannabis business owners have used the fact that 280E exists to pay bud tenders less than what you would make if you went to a King Soopers. To really, it is not the glamorous, job that we thought it was going to be 15 years ago, when Colorado was forming. It's basically run the same way a lot of businesses are run. They're very top heavy. A lot of the money tends to circle the owner's pockets. Here is a moment in time where you're going to see the businesses that really care about their employees, who have been using, it's so hard to stay in business, I can't give you a raise. Now that they're not paying, a third less taxes, right? I mean, Tony said 50%.
Yeah,
I
think
mean,
that's real.
Okay, so if that's the case, that's huge. I mean, huge. That's several full-time positions, if not raises for your entire company. So
Good luck there.
Well, you're right. So I'm not the only one.
Maybachs and yachts.
It's going to trickle down.
Yeah,
a couple more helicopters.
No, money trickles up. It doesn't trickle down. Yeah. So what is there any position to be taken right now to encourage to start changing the narrative to that? Don't forget the employees that have got us, that drove this industry. I thank the people who brought the money in. I thank the owners who made the crucial decisions. But please don't become what we considered to be a pariah of all industry is when they start taking the money out of the pool, and it becomes so top heavy that we're out. We're just workers.
Yeah, and there are organizations speaking out for workers' rights. It's unions. We see cannabis companies being unionized by the Teamsters, by the UFCW, the United Food and Commercial Workers. So, I mean, perhaps they take a stronger hold, depending on the state, depending on the company, and help raise the wages of the budtenders and others.
I will say, after hearing that from someone who's been a lab manager and would like to do, maybe not manage, but do more like an R&D position and stuff, that it does seem like now, there is room for me to go find the appropriate company that will offer me, fair compensation for my time instead of, half of that because of 280E. Now I feel like I can go and ask that,
And you're well worth it.
Yeah.
You're well worth it. You have a tangible, history of knowledge, and you help build one of the most successful cannabis brands that there is. And it's tough. Somebody told me that all the stocks went up today, that everybody saw the writing on the wall, that this was just basically an exit plan for the True Leaves and the Crescos and those guys, and that since they run publicly traded books or auditable financials, that big pharma is not going to buy some mom and pop dispensary on the street where they can't know exactly how every penny was spent. They're going to buy these companies that have auditable financials for the past, decade.
Wall Street speculation.
Anyway. Yeah, but to also add into that, big pharma companies, if they come into the industry, they're not buying your Crescos and your GTIs and stuff like that. They have nothing of value that a pharmaceutical company can use.
Yeah, I agree.
They don't need the licenses. They've got their own DEA licensures. They don't have to comply with state regulations. They follow the guidelines by the federal government under Schedule 3. And a lot of people, when they're talking about like all these big public companies, when you look at the ETF MSOs, 70% of that is made up of 3 companies. You don't have any one public company that's got so much brand equity built up, so much brand recognition built up, that if they stopped existing tomorrow, that people were going to care or even notice. So the opportunity is still there for all the small business owners, for all the people that are looking at the opportunity, one of the worst things you can do is be afraid of the big companies. They don't have that type of market. Like, if you look at California, they're non-existent. And when you're looking at it from the investor point of view, if Schedule 3 gives the whole investment opportunity a shot in the arm, where's the investor really going to be looking at? Are they going to be looking at some of these public companies that have a history of mismanaging funds, they have all this debt on the books and all that stuff, versus the private company that now wants to go public or wants to raise capital, where they do have that history of success? I know private companies where they're making more money on their bottom line than some of these public companies are. So when you're looking at like the labor side of it, now you're not just stuck saying, well, this company should do it right, that company should do it right. If you see a right way of doing it, you go out and do it the right way, right? Pay your employees right, sign up with the unions. Now you've got opportunities to raise capital, and you don't have that debt burden that a lot of these bigger companies have. So one of the worst things that these companies can do is don't be afraid of your own shadow. Don't be afraid of the public companies. At the end of the day, this is still a $100 billion industry. It's not dominated by any one company. It's not dominated by a handful of companies. It's still blue oceans, and everybody's got just as much of a shot to create what they're looking to create. The problem is, between COVID and the shutdowns and the drying up of investment funds, operators got operator fatigue. A lot of people are discouraged. So on the moral side of it, this is kind of like a shot in the arm where it kind of just reignites some of that fire that people have seen burn out.
I love what you just said.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, and talking about like what those investment companies are going to buy. Like, they're going to buy Tully's hash. They're going to buy your genetics.
Hey, this
one day,
baby, yeah.
One day, I'm
sell out.
I'm just a broke DJ now.
Fucking sell out,
piece of shit.
But that's the
dude. I just got a text
shill.
message. I said, "Oh, that's the most encouraging thing I've heard in 3 days," and someone's like, "So you're for Schedule 3?" I'm like, I didn't say that.
One of the worst things you can do is say it's good or bad. You just have to look at things the way they are and look at the opportunity that it presents. Who benefits? Everybody talks about when the chance comes up, everyone likes to speak on the name of the patients. But when you look at what is in the interest of the patient, what Schedule 3 does is it maintains what the patients already have access to, but it also creates the opportunity for them to have more traditional types of medicine produced by pharmaceutical companies that could potentially be covered by health insurance companies. When you talk about big company versus small company, yes, we talk about quality, but at the same time, a lot of patients can't afford that quality that comes with a small grower, right? They can only afford a certain price point. So as long as you have options available to the consumer, to the patient, to the customer, you really have to let the free market play out. And there's look, when you look at dispensary, you've got top shelf, you got bottom shelf. There's enough shelf space for everybody to go around. You just got to be able to stand on your own 2 feet.
I think a job offer from Vicente Cedarberg is coming your way, Avis. So look for it in the.
Actually, we competed a lot with Vicente in different state markets for licensing.
Yeah, nice to connect with you, my friend.
I know. I really like what you have to say. I mean, we've been I've been loving poking the hornet's nest on this. I mean, I've been having a great time with it on Instagram. Nobody wants to hear, happy things on Instagram. I post something like this, I have 500 comments. Not comments, but responses to things. So, I think Pfizer is going to come out with a hybrid MNR strain? No, MNR.
They can't. They have to do an isolation. There's when you look at it. I mean, you get to the point. If it's FDA, it's going to be drug because there's only two. When it comes to FDA, doesn't approve botanical drug substances as drugs. There's only two of them in existence that are like plant products.
What are they?
It's like two things from fungus.
That's not a plant.
Yes.
Is among us.
But it's considered a botanical drug substance, which is different than a drug, which is an isolation. And what we make is a lot closer to a botanical drug substance, which the FDA will probably never approve. So.
Boo.
So there's that.
Yeah.
I guess I had another question. What, I guess, other than maybe them not jumping into the market, would this now give pharmaceutical companies more incentive to lobby against the recreational industry as it stands? Maybe more so than it was under Schedule 1 now? Like, are we going to face more pressure from them trying to get rid of our dispensary grows the same way big dispensaries try to get rid of home grows, sort of thing?
I'll give you 5.8 billion reasons why. Yes, it's going to fuck us over.
Yeah.
Okay. We've paid nothing into Congress. You know what we did? No, we did. We sent Jason Beck. Okay, we sent him there for a week. To lobby people.
I remember.
Pharmaceutical company since '98 has spent 5.8 billion, and in the last 2 years, nearly $400 million. Okay. Come on. I love what you said, Avis, but I am not that way. I just think they're not going to give it up. They're not.
Why would pharmaceuticals care? Why would the pharmaceutical industry get involved in lobby against legalization?
Yeah, they're making products that are going to try to make you intoxicated.
They're competing for the medical.
They're not. I'm not talking about them lobbying anything. They're being handed the keys to the castle by it being made a Schedule III controlled substance.
I guess their argument is what castle you're talking about, because they're saying all they care about is the very strict drug castle of FDA approved isolated drugs.
Yeah, and again, like treat, prevent, or cure disease.
Because look, I'll agree, because here's why. They won't fight or lobby against legalization, but because now they're focused on their drug development stuff, and again, granted, we're going to be several years, 4, 5, 6, 7 years away from this, but once they do develop out a drug, you have to realize that you do have a competitor on the other side. That's the pharmaceutical company. So for example, whenever I talk to a client and we're talking about like addressable market share, right now what you've got a situation is you got one plant, one product, and you've got all these qualifying conditions that they can take care of. The way I tell them to look at it is like, look, if you've got a certain formulation, what are you replacing that's a pharmaceutical drug, right? Whether it's Tylenol for headaches or whatever it is. So if you've got a pharmaceutical company that develops out a product and a drug and they spend the tens and hundreds of millions to take that to market, they've got certain interests where they're going to need to protect those interests. But a way to look at it is think about like Adderall, right? Adderall, you've got it more on the pharmaceutical side, developed and distributed to pharmacies. But at the same time, you have a lot of companies coming out with the neutral version of Adderall, talking about how it addresses ADHD and stuff like that. So the lobbying is really going to be coming down to like the health claims that are being made, but it's going to be more protecting interests on any given product versus opposing legalization. And that's no different than the arguments that you have within cannabis companies right now,
Brian,
whether it's trademark infringement or any of that stuff. So
I want to ask you a question really quick, because I was curious about this when we were at Incredibles and we were looking at different ingredients and whether or not you use isolated CBD as an ingredient or you use CBD oil. And the way that I was thinking about it is because Epidiolex was approved and is a Schedule 5, anybody that continues to use isolate as an ingredient this is the question, could they be liable for using the ingredient that Epidiolex essentially is the only one approved to use? Does that make sense? Like that difference between broad spectrum, full spectrum, and then like, well, I'm using isolate in my products. Is that sustainable or not?
It's like $1 million a minute fucking call right here.
I'm getting free advice.
Two lawyers
right now.
Two lawyers, one call. We're fucking
want.
clocking money up right here. Holy shit! I can see our thing just clicking over.
Peyton
I was worried about
Peyton,
that.
thank you for joining the call. Peyton Manning, former quarterback of the Broncos down there, a.k.a. Jeff Guard, the guard dog.
The guard dog.
Where are you playing golf?
That's right, guys.
Is that
How
Hawaii? Where are you?
No, I'm in Nevada.
Nevada's?
At Mesquite, Nevada.
So,
Golf Mecca.
For those of you who don't know, that's Jeff Guard, attorney extraordinaire. Go to guardlawfirm.com.
Exclusive Adam Dunn show guy, too.
Put his phone number in speed dial and make sure you know it by heart in case you need it. Yeah. So
let's hope you don't. Straight from that driver. Yeah. So, boys, you've been talking about the 280E thing, huh?
We have everything.
Everything.
It's all open.
All over the place.
Yeah.
They love it.
Yeah,
You're banned. We've laughed and we've cried
boots.
at the same time on this show. The show has been going.
Well, and then that's kind of what you should do with that 280E, because it really is just it's a point in the right direction, but I don't think it solves any problems. It doesn't do anything for state legal businesses. It doesn't change any banking issues. I question whether the IRS is going to, without making state legal businesses legal, whether they're going to change their position on 280E. They might not. I mean, this is all policy driven, but it's a step in the right direction. But the big fear that I have is, once you put this in the hands of big pharma, are they going to hold on to it? Is this really a behind the scenes play to give them more control over at least the medical side of this thing? It's hard to understand. So.
Okay, well, we got 2 lawyers on the phone. I want my question answered.
Okay,
using
ask away.
Is using isolate as an ingredient in your products illegal because isolate is a Schedule 5 drug?
The DEA kind of took that position for a while, that they were considering that to be a quote unquote designer drug, and they've been backing off on that position back and forth. I mean, I think that interaction between cannabis and CBD, Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 10, all this shit, it makes it very confusing. And I think they're leaving it to the states to regulate it. I think under the Farm Bill, it's probably okay. Certainly there's no enforcement of anything like what you're talking about at the federal level, either for cannabis or isolate plus cannabis. I just think we're kind of in this weird limbo where I wouldn't bet my mother's farm on it, but I probably wouldn't be that worried about prosecution on that level.
Farm on it?
When is the next Farm Bill? When they've kicked that can down the road?
September 24.
Is it September?
Yeah.
Okay.
Later.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, and we'll see how well everybody's getting along in Congress in the election year in 2024, whether we're in another shutdown situation or. Nobody's going to play nice in 2024, even on the Farm Bill. So I that can't make it kick down the road again.
Shouldn't the real question be, if Trump gets elected, will we actually have an IRS next year?
I think it's all just going to go into his Bitcoin account or something. I'm not sure.
Brian, do you have a take on that at all? What you've seen with clients and using those ingredients or not? Because that goes to the question of, like, if pharmaceuticals take isolates, how can we still use those ingredients in our products?
We're gonna have this dual system, or we're not. I don't know. Right now,
dueling.
I mean, right now there's nothing illegal about isolate under the Farm Bill protections for CBD and hemp derived products. So I don't know. I mean, got Epidiolex on the one hand, but nothing really is advanced. And that's what 6, 7, 8 years now on that patent.
No one was enforced really.
And who the hell's getting who's asking to be prescribed Epidiolex? No one. They're just going to the fucking hemp store.
And when you're talking about the Farm Bill, Jeff, do you think that the recent surge in the marketplace for Delta 9 and THCA is going to just change the way everyone looks at it, and maybe all cannabis laws will become the Farm Bill? Because no one really cared. It just seems like all the products I saw at a trade show, it was all cannabis. I don't buy it for a second. It was all cannabis.
It does seem like that, and I think that's a really just sort of easy solution, is just to say cannabis is no longer covered by the Controlled Substances Act, just across the board. I mean, the lines are so blurred right now with Delta A, Delta 10, Delta 9, that and the states have no ability. Nobody's testing for it. What are you going to put this in the state lab? The FBI is going to be testing a bunch of cannabis products and hemp products to see what's what. I mean, the industry's so far ahead of where they're at enforcement wise that they may just have to just let this toothpaste continue flowing out of the tube.
I mean, it's an argument for descheduling because, I mean, hemp is descheduled, right? As per the Farm Bill. So we're all fired up about what should happen to cannabis, Schedule 1, Schedule 3. People are disagreeing. But hemp is outside that, right? And of course, you can have THCA from that. You can condense it all into powerful THC drinks in a lot of states, and it's all coming from hemp. So I think it's an argument. Yeah, it's ultimately deschedule and just regulate the entire plant.
Well, somebody told me, a friend of Jeff and I,
what really should happen.
Somebody told, I won't say his name, but Jeff knows him. He said that, and I didn't know to believe him, but you guys tell me, that one change to a word in the Farm Bill and cannabis is legal. I mean, that's all they have to do. I mean, they really just have to change
it's going to take a few more words to that than that. But I mean, that's exactly how they. I mean, it's not like hemp isn't cannabis. Okay, it is cannabis. So this is a legal fiction created based on the amount of THC, and now you have this blurring of the lines with 9, Delta A, everything else, that THCA, everything is, it's all blurred because you're getting the whole point of the Farm Bill, taking it out of descheduling it was based on intoxication, if you will. And that now is completely blown away because the industry is so far ahead of it. And the DEA has kind of said, well, the definition is very broad. It just needs to be expanded to cannabis as the whole plant, like Brian just said.
Wouldn't that be something?
Everyone's growing mids.
Well,
so
that's the easiest solution, isn't it?
There's so much mids out there that they're just like, I don't know, I can't tell anymore, man. It's just like, is it hemp or is it weed, bro? I don't know. It's all mids.
But tinkering with it the way that they have, it's just dumb. And but do they have? It's a nice. Hemp was a very sneaky little, nothing to see here kind of thing, and I still think there's going to have to be a big head on legalization, states' rights, the States Act 2.0.
Yeah, it's not really. No one's growing hemp. Everybody's just growing high cannabinoid other stuff. You know what I mean? It's like it's not even like hemp. At the end of the day, because I remember getting test results and being like, "What the fuck? 29% THC." Fucking A, like what the hell? Oh, this sucks. You know what I mean? And I was all, but now I'm like, man, I wish I had those fucking things. Those are the magic bullets right there. Because I thought I was like growing. Well,
it eliminates the need for these states to go from medical to rec. It eliminates these other states for coming online for rec because it's all just one big blurred line because it all gets you high. And so why would you fool around with cannabis if you can play it in the hemp market without all the regulations? But I think the regulations are going to come down on hemp too, and it's just going to be a hodgepodge. It's going to be a mess, and then lawyers like me and Brian are just
look at you. You're all happy now. Look how smiling you are. Look, you're both smiling. Yeah. You're both smiling as you said that. I can't believe it.
Golf isn't going to pay for itself, boys.
What hole are you on?
I'm on 18. I'm about to heckle my brother as he comes in.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Look at that. Caught him.
Damn.
Yeah, got me flat-footed. But let's do a special. We should do a special on this and do a little pre-planning on it. Let's take a look at it.
What did you just say? What was that word? Pre-planning?
We don't do that.
Well, at least
we barely planned this one.
have a loose agenda.
A what?
Better than other loose things. I'm glad.
Sorry.
I'm glad it's just your agenda Latin. That's loose these days.
This is Latin for having your shit together.
That's what we rely on you to get our shit together. What are you talking about?
I do that after the fact.
No, please no. All right, go play golf.
Yeah, go take care of your bro.
All right, boys. Thank you.
Thanks for dropping in.
Guardlawfirm.com.
The guard dog.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
look at old guy can't turn the phone off. Okay.
My glasses.
One of those.
I mean, all these years, the focus when it was a Schedule 1 was getting something like the States Act passed, the Safe Banking passed. Descheduling, the question is, was it really a realistic option to get it this year or anytime in the near future? And now the question becomes, in a Schedule 3 environment, how much easier is it going to be to get something like the States Act and Safer Banking passed versus having it be on a Schedule 1 drug? So I think that's where I'm optimistic. And honestly, if we do get Safer Banking and States Act passed, it's the equivalent of descheduling. So,
are you guys optimistic about that bill I saw Schumer reintroduce recently?
Nope.
No. Okay.
I mean, wait,
resounding
Schumer? No,
we're done.
No.
And forget about it.
And forget about it. No.
And hopefully it doesn't pass. The MORE Act, you're talking about 25% taxes. You've got every damn provision you can think of just stuffed in there. And it doesn't need to be that complicated. And that's why I really like Nancy Mace's Safer States Act. It's just simple. But right now, for things to be able to kind of like progress and build on this momentum, Safe Banking would be a real phenomenal addition. Hopefully more doesn't pass, and hopefully people put their support behind the States Act, because that really is one of those things where it's like, you know what, just leave it up to the states, let them do their thing. As the federal government, just collect our little piece of taxes, and the taxes is nowhere near 25%.
Well, that brings up a good point, Brian. Can you
whittle taxes? Those little whittle taxes.
Brian, you do a lot of work at the federal level. I guess I was just curious. Like, is it getting too convoluted right now? Like, is the conversation about like the MORE Act and then Schumer's
wait, you said convoluted and federal government? Just answer yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
I hope the feds ain't watching this.
The issue is we're just, having worked on this for a couple decades, we haven't created the pressure on the federal government to legalize yet. We just haven't, right? It's not like an issue they care enough about, right? And so we have 24 states that have legalized, and as I said, Florida is going to legalize this year, and hopefully South Dakota too. And I just think with each state that legalizes, you have Congress people from that state who are then going to go to D.C. and senators from that state, they're going to D.C. And eventually we'll just have a majority of folks from Congress that are representing legalization states and will vote in legalization's interest. So I think the battle still is to be waged at the state level. And I encourage your viewers in Florida to, get out and vote, and same in South Dakota. And we'll just keep picking off states. We'll get Hawaii next year. We'll get Wisconsin the year after that. And eventually there'll be enough pressure for those legislators that come from that state to care at Congress. But I still think we're a couple years.
Brian, let me ask you.
That was a good political answer. You didn't hit your wagon in any bill. I appreciate that.
Let me ask you this. Is there any federal treaty we have with Europe, or whatever the nation states that or NATO, that because Europe is changing their policies. It looks like with Germany legalizing, that wouldn't we have to, once the EU goes completely legal, wouldn't we have to adopt it, or we'd be in violation of several drug treaties we have with them? Or did we write something into it that says whatever we say stands and fuck you?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're premising that on the fact that we honor treaties. We can look at Native Americans and others that have not really been treated well from treaties. But in general, there are international treaties about narcotics. The United States has been guiding for years. And then we've had a rebellion within our own country where we're essentially turning our back on legalization, on prohibition, right? And moving forward legalization. So we do have movement in Germany, we have movement in other parts of the country, or the world, including Canada, et cetera. So it's I don't think treaties are going to hold us up, but there's not a trigger that if England or Germany legalizes, suddenly the U.S. has to do the same thing. It's more every country can sort of do their own thing and hopefully respect the drug laws of the surrounding neighbors.
It's pretty sad when Germany goes quicker than America. It's oh my God, dude, we are ridiculous.
They are efficient, though.
Can't get our shit together.
I guess I had another operator level question that I see a lot on Instagram right now. I see a few people saying, well, yeah, I'm a consultant and some of my clients already have buildings that are close to FDA standards to get built and all this stuff, minus going through trials for a product that has to be standardized and go through all that. Is the FDA and the federal government even going to give current operators a license if they would make these requirements, because they've been basically thumbing their nose at the federal government for the past decade or however long they've been operating? I guess that's how I looked at it. Your building might be up to FDA standards, but you've been operating against their will. Are they really going to give you a license now? It doesn't show good past performance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the FDA or any federal agency is really sitting around getting ready to regulate and license cannabis businesses, right? With the exception of a small number of sort of testing institutions that we talked about earlier. I think a lot of my clients and others will try to get their facilities up to these kind of GMP standards and things like that because they want to ultimately sell, right? And they think that institutional money will come in eventually, and they're going to want to buy facilities that are, really have a high standard.
When I think
I think you need to define it as a cannabis facility. When you're going through and you get a GMP, you're a manufacturing facility, not a cannabis business. So it's just the standards that you have to meet. And the question becomes, you need to pick and choose which side you want to play with, which market you want to, what supply chain do you want to belong to.
Mm-hmm. Well,
you'll probably have more problems on the state side, the state cannabis license side, than you would on the other side. It's the state regulations that say that you can't have coffee, you can't have an alcohol license if you're selling cannabis, and all those other restrictions that come with it. For federal purposes, it's your facility. It's GMP standard, whatever it is.
Yeah, if you're gonna put tons of money into something, you have to future-proof it and build it beyond, above and beyond, knowing that you're gonna get, at some point they're gonna come in, and usually it's better when they wow, you went bigger than you should have, and you're fine.
So we had a question from we'll just call him a listener. He wants to know how will Schedule 3 affect breeding facilities?
What's a breeding facility?
That is someone who is not growing cannabis for consumption. They are growing it for seed
Yeah, but where and in what system already?
I
guess is the question.
Do you want to zoom in, caller? Listener, anonymous listener.
I'm already I know a lot of breeders that have I know a lot of people with a breeding facility that nobody knows about. So I guess what type of breeding facility?
Well, I suppose those won't matter.
Well, it's because they never actually gave these little micro licenses in Colorado. In Massachusetts they have, and there's a few places that have these in between licenses, which
California does.
Right, but
California has a nursery license. You can go get a nursery. You can do everything except for flower the plant.
Right.
But then again, the Schedule 3 doesn't have anything to do with that because you're participating in a state license supply chain, and you have a state license, so it's got nothing to do with the feds.
Right.
I can't help but keep going back to what Tony said during our talk, that you have ifs were buts, then we'd all have coconuts or whatever it is. It's like
I don't think you got that right, but
I didn't get it right, but
pretty much totally got that wrong.
Say the weird thing.
If it's Schedule 3 and the only people that can touch Schedule 3 substance.
Yeah, but it's Schedule 1 and we're touching it right now. So we're basically just gonna stay as illegal as we ever been, and we're
but there's no framework other than just saying it's illegal. They will have a framework.
But they don't really have a framework now.
They have nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So then it's all good then. We're all good.
They already don't have a framework.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah,
we're all good then.
Is you're just operating in a little bit looser of an environment than it was when it was Schedule 1. You still need follow-up legislation to protect the state's rights, and that's why we keep talking about the States Act and safe banking and stuff like that.
I don't know. It just sounds like I see the smile on Brian's face, and he's just so excited.
It's like it's talking a river of money.
Back the truck up. Hey, honey, that house you wanted in Maui, we're getting 2.
I mean, think about probably $1 billion.
It's going into
Vicente's every year from cannabis businesses because they're subjected to 280E. Would you rather have that money go to the IRS or to the cannabis business owners who hopefully will share it with their employees and lower prices and all this stuff? It's just a win for the industry. And, there's a broader movement and, there's a lot of ifs here. I'll be honest. It's not entirely black and white.
I can see
if I don't disagree with you right now, looking at our studio audience, I might be killed on the way out to my car. So
did you record that?
Come on. It can't. The moment the federal government gets involved, we're just fucked. We talked about this a few weeks ago. We kind of liked it the way it was. We didn't want them to do anything.
It sounds like it basically is the way it was, minus now some Chads have to go through 3 to 5 year approval, and we have a little bit of time, and maybe 280E gets, or not maybe, but 280E gets dropped, and now maybe we, the industry can operate. But and other than that, what does it change about the black market other than now maybe there's more demand, and black market demand probably goes up from here?
Well, the black market is not driven by federal policy. The black market is driven by all the state and local policies. That's the number one driver of the black market. And the way you fix the black market is you fix the regulated market. You don't enforce against it. The black market is serving a market need. It's serving a price point and serving accessibility of product. And that's all driven by all these state policies and regulations. And hell, the black market's been thriving long before this whole schedule.
It's like New York. It's like New York. It's like there's a vacuum.
Yeah, exactly like New York.
There'll always be an area that they'll fill right into.
Giant sucking sound.
Insert sucking sound here. Exactly.
One of the things that you want to really understand with the whole Schedule 3 thing is it ends up untethering all the different topics that kind of get encompassed in the whole cannabis umbrella. Cannabis, you've got the business side of it, you got the political side of it, you've got the prison reform side, the social justice side of it. All these things have been tethered together up until now. So now when you start separating it, it's like, okay, now it's a Schedule 3, that's on the business side of it, but you're also naturally untethering all these different things. So when you're talking about legislation that addresses prison reform or social justice and criminal justice stuff, now you want to be able to really hyper-focus on that stuff and not let the conversation get driven and dictated by a financial lens or an economic capitalist.
Well, then that's the question right now, will everybody in jail for any cannabis-related offense, nonviolent, get let out?
No, and that's where you got to hold their feet to the fire. Yeah. Because Biden promised the reform, and this is why this is nothing.
$100. You owe $100 too. You said his name, so
who?
You said we don't say those names. I said one name too, so I owe 100. So this is a $300 show.
Wow, we're making money.
Fuck yeah!
Gotta get that lawyer money.
That's almost lawyer money.
Almost got a minute worth of lawyer
yeah.
money. Yeah.
All right, so Brian, how do people contact you if they want to retain your services, or you do realize that by coming on our show, you signed the contract, right? Oh, yeah. You cannot go on any other podcast for 12 years.
All right. And everything we discuss is exclusive and private, confidential. I get it.
Just between us.
Just
us.
Yeah, just us.
Just us.
So Vicente, which is my last name, LLP.com.
Oh, yeah, it's not. That's right. I said that other name.
Check it out. And I will say, there are, at the end of the day, we all support legalizing cannabis. Yeah. There are people that are looking at it from different ways, right? I might have a different view than you guys, but I see us as all as allies. And there will be a comment period, right, where individuals, whether they're pro or con, will be able to submit written comments to the Federal Registry, and we'll actually share information about that on our website. And you can say, I hate this, or I love this, or whatever. But it's democracy. Like, this is our chance to sort of participate. So check us out at VicenteLLP.com.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. Appreciate everything you've done for the industry. Yeah. I really do. I've followed you for a very, very long time, and now that I think about it, I got my first medical card in 2008. So that's like, what, 26 years, 16 years ago. So and you were around then. So
yeah,
big ups.
You're cured. You're cured now.
I'd like to thank both of you for your perspective, because I'm just a lab employee and sort of independent traditional market operator sometimes. So you've given me good perspective, and I think I'm less negative than I was last week about all this. So.
Oh, now look, see, he said it. You heard, right? It wasn't me. It was him. He said it.
Yeah,
so he's the guy.
Less negative. I said less negative.
We're just like you guys.
Yeah. We Peace and love. Peace and love.
No, thank you, man.
Thank you. And Avis, appreciate you for your time. I mean, you didn't think that posting one thing on sending me one document was going to result in you giving up 3 hours on a Friday night, did you?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
No, it was my pleasure.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
hey, you want to plug anything, Avis?
Tell us where you're at.
Huh?
You want to plug anything? A business, a website? Anything?
Oh, yeah. Our website is SIVALLC.com, SIVA LLC. My email is avis@SIVALLC, which is basically my name backwards.
And I sent Mark the PDF you sent us of that. It's pretty long, so maybe we'll just post the link in the chat.
Yeah, next week I got one coming out, which is the implications of Schedule 3 and what should happen on the federal side. So I'll get you guys that. It's going to be a hell of a lot shorter than the comprehensive report.
Well, yeah, we'll do like Bloomberg. We'll go to you anytime somebody has a Schedule 3 question. We'll do the what's that? The John Oliver. We snap our fingers and George Clooney appears.
This is our version.
Yeah.
Hey, it was George Clooney. Yeah, same thing.
Thank you, but
I just shaved my head 2 weeks ago. But yeah.
But I know I really appreciate your perspective on it, because all we've heard is sky is falling, and I am having too much fun just throwing kerosene on it, and your perspective is refreshing, because one can only hope that just a little of what you wish for the industry happens.
I think we're safe.
You can either continue fighting the old or help build the new, and it is what it is. None of the complaining is going to change the fact that it is going to a Schedule 3. Like I put in my main report, it's prohibition rebranded, and the ideal scenario is descheduling. But now that we're at a point where it is going to be Schedule 3, it's like, okay, what's the good, what's the bad, what's the opportunity, what's the drawback? How do you do it in a Schedule 3 environment that really ends up maximizing the benefit and getting as close to descheduling as you could have gotten it?
I think our personal safety is based on the incompetence of the government. So I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be fine, because they'll just not know what the fuck's going on.
It's going to take them a while.
And they're just going to be going like, I don't know, man. It's, it's like when they first start anything, you're making the rules in a sense, because they can't figure it out. You got to kind of tell them what's going on. So as long as the right people are at the right places, and there's not some the scariest part for me, and it's weird because it's like things I never thought would ever happen was like years ago. I remember saying like, dude, the day they fucking make weed legal, it's gonna be a fucking nuclear war, I guarantee, right? And I'm like looking at reality of time. I'm like, if I looked at two different screens, I could see those headlines right now, like pretty much like weed legalized, brink of nuclear war. I'm like, I told you guys, I timed it right. I was
it's not nuclear war, it's the asteroid's gonna hit.
Oh yeah, the asteroid. That's the late, and that's the next thing. Yeah. But yeah, it's crazy because it's like it's all really happening in real time. So hopefully,
if there's any one advice I can give anybody is take off your red hat, take off your blue hat. It's not left or right. Focus on policy and not get caught up in the politics of it, because you're dealing with professional politicians that'll just take you out to the deep end and drown you. Milton Friedman has a really good saying, and I put it at the end of the report. It's the way you create change is by giving incentives for the wrong people to do the right thing. So if you're talking to a Republican, you got to speak their language on what drives them and what their policy principles are. If you're talking to somebody on the left, you got to kind of start giving them the reasons why they should do it and why it's in their political best interest to do it. And a lot of conversations got shut down because of the whole left or right thing. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if your primary goal is policy change, focus on policy and don't let them turn it into a politics conversation.
Oh, for sure.
Well said.
I like that.
Well said.
Good advice. It's like having somebody tell you the thing you want. You've been trying to get. You just get them to say it. They say it. It's their idea. Fuck, it's gonna get done, dude. If you try to tell them, they'll never do it. But you let them tell you, and it's like amazing how they just all of a sudden it's 100% ready to go. So it's kind of the same style.
Yeah, give them a reason why it's in their best interest politically to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
For sure.
All right, Avis, thank you, man.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Talk
Peace.
soon.
Thank you.
Has anybody ever told you look exactly like Al Pacino?
That was a good one. That was a good one. Good timing. Anyway, well, good. We got all sorts of. I told you. I said we're gonna have the highs, the lows. The perspectives will go all over the place.
Oh, and we still didn't have everybody on yet. We got lots of people.
Well, this is going to be one of those. This is literally the hydro versus bio story of politics right now.
I guess
there's always something that just never ends. Hydro versus bio.
The big silver lining for me is the fact that it's that according to the lawyer and Colin, that is,
which lawyer? We had two.
Brian, that if it goes Schedule 3, then 280E automatically drops for everyone. I mean that just seems to be like the one silver. That's the silver lining too.
For sure. Oh, for sure. That's the first thing J-Dub told me. That's the first thing. Everybody who owns a business has been like, just like,
I didn't realize
fuck
that.
Yeah, I want this 280. Oh, dude, I can finally breathe. You know what I mean? It's like literally the thing holding everybody back. But at the same time, it's like, okay, we haven't really created any framework. What happens when they say, oh, and to run your business, you have to get this federal thing and that federal thing, and that's $20,000, and this is $50. All of a sudden you're like, well, there goes all my 280 out the fucking window. I'm paying these weird federal things that I've never had to pay because they've decided that now if you want to operate as a dispensary, that you're going to be outside of, there's all sorts of ways.
It's going to be vacations for owners.
Someone's going to come up with an angle, because that's what they do. They always fucking sit around and go like, how the fuck can we fleece? It's like sitting around trying to figure out how to make flights more uncomfortable. Can we make this more uncomfortable?
We could get another 50 people on this plane.
I feel like
that's
be
something we can pull off this plane to make save some.
The bane of the industry is the idea that even where you're where even your family is just like, sure, I mean, tax it, make it legal. And I'm like, no, stop taxing the fuck out of us. Just make it legal. Like,
wait, what business are you in? I'm in accounting. You want me to give you some advice on accounting right now? Let me tell you. Listen, this is what you do. You round up all the time. It's never a problem. No, stay out. Be an expert. Don't offer your opinion on this right now. That's why we had people that were way smarter than us come on and talk about this, because it is fucking scary. I do not want to be around to watch cannabis become yet another roller coaster ride where we saw it get so close to the top or so close to the end zone, and then you go, whoops.
What was the guy's name that we talked to from the brewery that was doing the cannabis drinks or whatever? And then he was talking about how because he did both alcohol and cannabis drinks, and he said you don't want to get onto the legal side. Holy shit, I'm paying that's worse. And because we had brought up 280E to him, and he basically was saying like, I pay so much more because I'm dealing with this fucking FDA thing and this fucking thing, and I have to fucking pay for this and that because I'm, transporting fucking alcohol from A to B and doing whatever. So it costs him way more and way more headaches. And he said he wished he could just be on one side. So kind of doesn't really make me excited about thinking about like, okay,
more regulation.
How are they gonna like? If they're gonna know that you're making more money because you don't have to pay these taxes, all of a sudden they're gonna be like, well, fuck yeah, we want that money. So how we could just hit everybody
harder
up with
to talk about more regulations being burdensome, and that's what I do help clients with. I think is trying to navigate those waters to say,
what's your consulting firm? Give that out.
Canope Consulting.
Oh, that's easy to spell.
K-O-N-O-P-E. I just spelled it. Listen.
One more time.
K-O-N-O-P-E. It's
got nope right in it, dude. I love that. Nope. You just answer that like, hey, can you help me? You're like, canope. And then
we're done. I'm out.
We're out. I'm used to Colin telling me that when we make a new product, and he's like, nope.
I said no a lot.
MED won't let you.
And that's why I think like it's a double-edged sword.
I was gonna say, I don't know if having no in your
whoa,
fucking name is
But he also
what
kept
products did he want to come up with that you said no to? I want to hear.
All sorts of good ones.
Oh well.
It
wasn't
terpenes.
necessarily the product. It was like how.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's more about, and that's why I think like as we move forward in this, the past 15 years, I think the credibility has come from good, bad, or indifferent. The credibility, like from lawmakers, has come from testing, and we can talk shit about testing all day, but at least we had that conversation to be like, okay, we can start to say maybe these products are getting to the point of safe for consumption because they were tested. And I think now moving forward, the next 15 years is not necessarily about testing, because I think the more data we have, the more it shows testing is fucked up, and we need to reform that. But now it's about processes and procedures, and we talked about those facilities, right? Like you said, there are people that that have facilities that are getting close to FDA compliance. And I think in that FDA world, it hovers more around processes and procedures. Like however you get to the end result in cannabis,
it's got to be the same way every time.
Well, now, like moving forward, but up until this point, like regardless of how you got there, testing said, okay, now you can sell this. And I think now we're moving forward to say like it is about like how you do this consistently, standardization. And hopefully that gets rid of the necessity for testing
on our side
of things, but then still gives credibility to the people that are still prohibitionists to say like, well, this is the worst thing ever. Well, it's like, no, we have proof this is going to work. We have to do it the right way.
Plus, we've tested so much more than any other industry. It's
and that's my point.
We have lots of data. Like, hey, look at this.
And even more to say, like
and
maybe the data we had was bullshit, and like maybe that wasn't that wasn't what we needed, but it was. I would say it's in my opinion, it's what we needed to get to where we are now. But moving forward, like processes and standardization, I think is going to be the focus, because no one is going to make a product in Colorado that makes somebody sick in another state. And so that interstate commerce, like from an FDA level, to be like, if you're making this product in a GMP facility, you follow those standards, you don't need to test it because you made something that was safe for consumption, even though we legally can't say these things are safe for consumption, which is bullshit. But it is, I think, a maturation, an inevitable maturation of the industry to say like, you are making your hash the way you make your hash, and it's safe
in a Rubbermaid,
but there's a
tub with some mold growing.
These PVC pipes
on a carpet
get used for hash.
Plastic table.
But with that becomes a higher investment in environment, and the cost is, I mean, it's probably just going to be shifted. It's like, okay, we're not paying those taxes anymore, but now I've got to revamp my facility because if I don't,
you're going to
microbial contamination is going to continue to be a pain in the ass.
Well, packaging is in violation.
Yeah,
I mean, and all those things are improvements. Of course, you want people to. I mean, that's the cool part too, is you've seen it over the years. Like grows before were like kind of like expansions of people's basements in spaces that were never designed to grow weed in the first place.
Building.
And so it's like, yeah, we're just gonna put three going this way and two going this way, and you're just like, nowadays it's like finally everybody's got their shit dialed in, where it's like, okay, we got a proper grid built up, everything's dialed in, it's pretty much standard. There might be a couple of places that have weird little nooks or whatever, but for the most part, it's just big, huge rooms and simple and easy to work with. Whereas before we were carving out and fucking dropping lights down and being all weird. But those standardizations are making it like much cleaner and much like all of a sudden you go to the grows and they're like, people actually do clean their places, and you're
and
going.
People are suiting up.
I'm like walking in, going like, "Damn, these places are fucking tight." Shout out to Happy Valley. Like I walked through their spot and was like, "Okay, you have to go into the get the air bath first, and do everything proper." And you're like, "All right, we're taking it above and beyond," which is the way you kind of want people to be doing it, obviously. But it's weird because we're so used to fucking go like middle of the night to fucking houses where you're not supposed to be, and fucking like, don't turn the lights on, just fucking come in, go downstairs, and then take care of places, and doing all this clandestine shit. So we've gone through that. So to go from that to go to like air baths and proper things with hair nets and fucking beard, it's an improvement, and you have to do that. But all that costs a shitload of money.
Exactly.
And like when I walk around, all I'm thinking is like, oh my God, these guys are spending a lot per month, because it's like, every time you take that hairnet off, throw it in, there's like a whole pile there. You're like, those guys are buying those from Uline or whoever, and you're just like, okay, I've seen those, that they're running like 20 on the power and 10 on this and 15 on that. It's just got you start adding it up. You're like, this is hundreds of thousands per month. So everything has to run perfect, or else it's like catastrophe.
And it's not going to get any easier, right? Like it continues. Like you have to continue to level up and get to that point, and the product hopefully shows that too.
And
like
there's just going to be more competition as we go. Like I don't think we're gonna come to a point where we all magically find laws that everyone likes, where we get rid of all the competition. Like that's just not the way the world works. And I think Avis really talked me off the ledge when it came to like, what is their incentives for coming after us because of Schedule 3? And I think maybe now, I have realized maybe they're not as incentivized as my emotional reaction like wanted to think they are to come after us. To be like, well, I'm making this and I want them to stop making that. We can't rule it out, but I am like, he made me feel a little bit better about it.
Yeah, and us includes everything from like a multi-state operator that's already valued at billions of dollars to a mom and pop that's just starting out, that has little to no valuation. That's the unique part I like about the industry too, is like there's still such a drastic contrast between those levels, but they're not going to go after the mom and pop and exclude Cresco or GTI. Like they're going to
most likely
Cresco
go
and
after
GTI
them
are paying
first.
Brian and others to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Hopefully. What are you doing over there,
Oh,
gossip?
this is something we're going to have to talk about.
I have a feeling
Patreon.
Shit. Oh, shit. Can I say it?
You guys want to get
No.
Man.
In fact, if you want to hear about this, you're going to give us $1.05, $4.20 a month.
It's crazy.
Go on Patreon.
Go on Patreon. We'll
this
talk
is the
about
greatest
Patreon.
thing.
I didn't even read it, and
The
I just
show
had to
was
say,
not
shit.
named, but some friends of ours definitely were.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
Holy come on.
Yeah, I opened up Instagram, and that was the first post. I was like,
God.
All right, so with Patreon, we got fucking.
Oh yeah,
we got Miles in the house from Weed Should Taste Good, so it's gonna get crazy, right? It's gonna be party time.
And that other guy.
This is the week to join. But before we do all that, we're gonna do a quick shout out to our 8,000 sponsors.
Yes.
Starting off where we're at, So High Cafe, 4300 West Alameda. Go ahead and give Vinny a call and see if there's any barbecue.
He was cooking up some weird shit.
Was he?
I was like, what's that?
Oh, wow.
Is that chicken feet or something? And he goes,
wow.
Bork. I'm like, oh.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's got all kinds of
Bork?
stuff.
So,
Bark.
The burn ends. If you're around while there's some burn ends,
Swedish
that's
chef.
the stuff you want. His brisket's really good. People clamor about the wings, so smoked wings, if you're into smoked wings.
And the burn ends and the brisket.
Oh, the burnt ends, the brisket.
Also, the mac and cheese.
Where is he? Where's the voice of God?
Mac and cheese is fire.
Voice of
Come on
God.
by tomorrow for Bar Chirp Town. May
Oh,
the
yeah.
4th be with you.
Don't
yeah,
you
we're
forget
doing Bar
about
Chirp
it.
Town
It's
tomorrow,
going to be
so
a good
come on
day
down.
tomorrow. There's a lot of shit going on. People are everywhere.
May the 4th be with you.
Stay off Federal.
Stay off of Federal. Yes, sir. Come on down.
Come on down.
To Bar Chirp Town.
Ozo Coffee.
So look at that. They have a 10% discount. We have a 20% discount. Go to
It's in the sauce.
ozocoffee.com. Enter DunDeal24 at checkout. 20% off your entire order. Just get the subscription. Enter DunDeal24. Their coupon was redeemed over 600 times last year. It's great coffee.
666 times.
1959 roaster. Green beans shipped from around the world. Roasted in Boulder.
Ozo Coffee. Build a Soil.
Whoa, look at that.
855
Nice looking website.
Soil.
It's looking tight.
Give them a call. Tell them you heard about it on the Adam Dunn Show.
Updated.
10% or more.
That's where you get that good shit. The good shit from fucking our buddy right over there.
Miles.
Stinking up the place. Always stinking up the place. He comes in, you're like, I smell him. I smells him.
Well, somebody always posts these things when he travels going, somebody smells like weed on this plane.
Oh, yeah. No, the best part about the ferments is like you learn to appreciate the nasty side. You're all, oh, yeah.
This smells like ferment.
This is even nastier. This is watermelons. This is not watermelons.
Buildasoil.com.
This is some crazy shit. I know, right? Tight.
Was tonight the first time you used a yo tip?
Yes.
What do you think?
Oh, I'm sold.
Yeah,
I'm going home.
Keeps you safe. Makes any pre-roll hit better. Makes any joint you roll hit better.
I like this. Look at this old tight thing.
Yeah, I love this new one.
That's the twist.
This was from. They got
Twist
inspiration from Dabex.
Twist tech.
So you go to yotip.com. Or you send them an email and you tell them which medical dispensary you shop at, and we'll get them a sample pack. Yotip.com will keep you safe, right? I mean, it's easy to do. You keep the tip, you pass the joint, germs stay with the joint, not on the tip.
You get to keep all your germs.
That's it. You keep all your germs.
Don't even get to give them away.
Yeah, don't give those away for free.
Don't give that shit away.
Yotip.com.
Yotip.com.
Green Med or Green's Farms Med.
So Yo-Tips and Dabex need to speak with JW. He needs to change this thing. We made fun of 14er forever about having that fucking rosin dong,
and then they took that away.
Dildo, and that's gone.
Now they look professional.
We had a Speedo numbnuts. We took that away. So get rid of this. Okay, change this up right away. That looks like a joint we would have rolled in the 80s.
I keep forgetting to tell him. I will tell him. I talk to him all the time, and I always forget to tell him.
I can see it being twisted on
the thing is that he rolls giant fucking blunts.
Does he not look at his website? Yeah. We love you, JW, but get that changed. So to go to greenfarmsmed.com, he has 900 SKUs in his store. It's like going to a New York City Chinese restaurant.
But what's really cool about it is he showed me a photo from last year and a photo from this year, and even though he has more things, it looks way cleaner and tighter. He's just tightened it all up and made it like you don't. It's not like you're overwhelmed. It's not like there's 900 things and you can't fucking figure it all out. He's got a real smart way to lay out and shit. So check them out if you're a medical patient and you're in the Springs. You gotta check them out.
If you're not a medical patient, go to holoshealth.com. Tell him you heard about it on the Adam Dunn Show. I'm pretty sure he's going to give you 20% off your medical evaluation.
Greenfarmsmed.com. Green Bros.
You need to give Colin a call right now. His name is Dylan Colin Reichert. So go to greenbroswithaz.com.
Everybody now.
Give him a call.
Overwhelm him.
If you're not thinking about what you're going to be doing at Harvest now,
look at that.
it's a problem. And the Harvest bucket is half price right now. I'm pretty sure it's $300. So you go to greenbros.com.
It's not half price.
They have a big special on it when you check out.
Okay.
I don't know. They do.
You
get something.
Don't listen to Dave. Don't listen to this guy.
Check your cart.
Anyway, their products are super well made, all stainless steel, all simple, and they don't be like one of the things because I use their M1, M3. What is it called? M3.
I think you said the M1.
M1
back in the day.
I am something. Anyway, tabletop model. It's very nice because it's like for the smaller buds and the side buds. At the end of the day, they'll treat it better than you would if you did it by hand because you'll be like.
Is that what you got?
No.
Yeah, pretty much.
Maybe.
Kind of like that.
I have a meeting with Colin next week about him retooling the Holy Roller to accept Yo-Tips.
Whoa, look at you.
See if they can do that. Well, that's the reason why you don't see them.
But then how are you going to do that and then...
With different type of Yo-Tip that's designed to just be a tip. Not
the germ spreader
edition.
You know, Mark version.
It's the germ spreader edition. You should have it so that it receives a... it has a special built-in.
He's really good at insulting the advertisers.
Well, why doesn't he have... No.
He makes it a skill.
Why doesn't he make it as a receiver that you click this onto and then...
Maybe they...
4 in a pack.
Oh, yeah, giving the idea away.
Come on.
You heard it here, guys.
That's what I do.
That wouldn't be the first.
Yeah.
If you're into concentrates,
go back
and you're in Denver and Oklahoma, you want to check out Apothecary Farms, where they have they're experts in terpene preservation.
His shirt looks really close. His font was really close. Huh?
Exactly.
It was.
His font was like on the exact.
saw it. I was like, wow, that's like a It's like a mental thing, right? Everyone just kind of goes to Old English apothecary stuff. Right?
It really.
Anyways,
same
word,
same font.
You're not going to be disappointed if you come in and check out their concentrates on Mondays. They do Max Out Mondays, and that's
everybody's
the
jacked at apothecary. I see.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
No,
walk in and
we know them. No, they're not.
They just got a new disposable vessel, so go check those out. They have syringes back in stock, and
I always thought that word was bad optics. Syringe.
Syringe is bad.
But like it's for like
syringe is bad.
It's for
No
like
matter how
filling
you-
up those Dabex cartridge things. You know what I mean? Like that's
way
what you
to
would
bring
use
in
that
another
for.
sponsor,
Okay. Yeah,
Tarn.
exactly.
Oh,
Speaking
way.
of which, Dabex.com.
Dabex.com. You have to say it like that.
Dabex.com.
I went
Hey,
to
good job.
I went to a Tailwinds launch on Wednesday.
What'd you do?
Tailwinds, it's my friend's company, the little spray. It actually works, believe it or not. I mean, I needed 100 milligrams, but it
Spray.
works.
What kind of spray?
It's a
Blue
sublingual
Chew?
spray.
Was this Blue Chew?
It's really good.
Trust me.
Totally lost my train of thought. Anyway, that deal they did for a
Killed it?
cleaning
Dude.
kit,
Killed
that
it?
was the greatest thing.
That's the greatest deal.
The greatest deal ever, and it's over.
I know. It was the best deal.
But you want to know what the best deal is right now?
What?
The
Dunn deal.
Oh, shit.
20% off anything you order. So you want to pick up a cleaning kit, and a Pro Tool. I want to say my Pro Tool, after so much use,
That was like today.
it's given
Anal
up the
probe tool,
Yep.
what'd you say?
Pro Tool.
Oh, probe.
So go to
said
dabex.com.
probe.
Big things coming out of this company. Big collaborations
things.
with some
Big
other
probes.
companies.
Big probes. Big
Yeah.
probes.
Big things coming
Big
out of
fat dabs. Dabex.com.
I'm excited. 14er Boulder.
Holy
The
cannoli.
8-gram tub. Look at that. Cold Cure Live Rising. Buy now.
You want to check these guys out. They're doing big things right now. They're bringing in a lot of different products because the companies are agreeing to process 14er material.
Hash hole over here.
Hash holes available, flour, rosin, resin. They have a deal with Viola. Oh, they have a deal with Apothecary. Check these guys out. You go to 14erboulder.com, enter Dunn Deal at checkout. You have to be a pre-order, and I believe it's 20% off.
It is now.
That's right.
Hempco.com.
These guys are offering 25% off. If you're looking for any CBD product, any CBG product, creams,
And these guys are all
lotions,
FDA. These are FDA approved.
Yeah.
And these are all grown with.
Deadheads, get on it. This is Bill Kreutzmann's daughter's company, man. Come on, let's kick back to the community. So you go to kawahihempco.com.
Yeah, you freaking deadheads.
Come on.
We put up a
Keep the
fucking-
money in the scene, man.
Yeah, man.
And
That's
grilled
right,
cheese, bro.
man. Yeah.
Free grilled cheese from
for
Dave.
Hippie
for
grilled
everybody.
cheese, baby.
Anybody who orders.
kawahihempco.com. Done deal at checkout, 25%
It was
off.
awesome when she didn't know, or
Fucking-
when we didn't say anything, and then during the 24-hour show when they were on the beginning. If you want to watch, just watch, man. It's the only
Part
24
one.
hours. Part one is right in the beginning. You can see it right out of the gate.
TakingTopsCannabis.com.
You'll know what I'm talking about, man. I'm not telling you. I'll tell you on Patreon.
Check out the links at takingtopscannabis.com.
Take it up, take it up. I thought he was gonna stop by. Where's he at?
Studentglass.
Stunden.
Studentglass.com.
We are 21,
sorry.
bro.
Done deal, 24% off your order.
That's the mini one right there.
This thing hits like a fucking
That's
sledgehammer.
the mini, and then we
What
have.
have you never hit a grav before?
I've have,
And
but
then they
this
have-
is
they have the
again and
snap-on
again and again and
module.
again
No,
and
this
again.
one's dope.
That module dock looks really cool. We need to get one of those too.
It has been at least over a decade since I've done a grav hit. So
Stundenglass.com. Done deal at checkout, 24% off.
24. Oh, 24. It wasn't so bad. Could have been 26.
Hortitech Direct.
Best greenhouses in the industry, double-walled. All the mechanicals are on the inside greenhouse.
Keeps it clean. Keeps it safe.
Yeah, minus 70 degrees in North Dakota for 3 days. 70 degrees inside.
72 to be exact.
72, sorry.
Right on
50
the
mile an
mark.
hour winds.
72.
Celsius.
Not Celsius.
And the greatest part of this deal, when you get in the most amazing greenhouse,
I'm
is
telling you,
get
those
6 of
fucking
those
brushes. Those brushes rock, dude. I've been using them more and more.
You really do want to give them a call. They'll help you through
And
the
I'm like,
entire process of
no one's gonna
planning,
complain.
permitting, building.
They're gonna love it.
HortitechDirect.com.
I'm not going to complain when weed's put in my hand.
Exactly.
Who's going to know?
Terpwipes.com/done
deal. That's the only way to get them. Terpwipes.com/done deal. You want to get a subscription.
It's a good shit.
It is a most amazing supporting product for your Dabex Go. You don't need Q-tips anymore. You need some terp wipes.
It's like when you have certain products in your house, you feel safe, and this is one of them. Like, you look over, they're full, everything's going to be okay. Like, it's going to be fine, dude. Doesn't matter.
Bio365.com. Give Tim an email at Tim at bio365.com.
Talk to Tim on the way down. He's killing it. Everywhere we go, it's starting to become that thing where you start to tell people, and they're like, already using it. I'm like,
too late.
Jeez, not like that. Is it already? Come on now. I'm the one telling you.
You betcha. Bio365.com.
Give Tim a call.
Numbnuts.
Numbnutsco.com. We had some peanut butter
I had it
week.
in my bag. I just found it yesterday. I was
nice,
all, oh, shit.
Oh, we have some. It's all around. Go to numbnutsco.com.
It's all over your face, bro.
Enter Done Deal at checkout. You get 20% off, and you get nuts on Adam's chin.
No, your
or
chin.
click the Find Our Nuts button, and you can buy 1,000 milligram THC.
That's when it's
peanut
all
butter.
over your face, pretty much.
Yeah.
Or on your...
Let's talk about Telly's nose. Breckenridge.organictherapy.com. Enter Done Deal at checkout on your pre-order, 10% off.
All right, I'm out.
Sunscapeled.com.
Dude, I fired him up.
Yeah?
Fuck. Yeah. Patreon, you'll see him.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Man.
I didn't fire him up like I have them all ready to rock. I just put.
You just like turned them on and power washed them.
2 of them. I was about to power wash them.
Cool.
I was about to do it, but I thought maybe I'd be power washing the whole room.
Miles is going to die.
But no, they're fucking sick. They're tunable, fully tunable. You can break them down from blue, red, and orange, and you can just kind of in between them all, and it's fucking amazing.
Sunscapeled.com.
Yes, they're modular, built to last, and fucking we're about to start fucking firing them up.
Nice, dude.
Yeah, I'm excited.
JeromeBaker.com.
Speaking of excited, Vindicator
takes Bitcoin.
They built the Vindicator. They can do it all.
Made it through the fire inspection.
Yeah, fire inspectors love the Vindicator. They said that looks really
no problem
safe.
with the Vindicator.
They walked through. Is that a nitrous-assisted bong I see there? Nice
it
job.
actually is.
You guys are doing a great job here.
You're like, good job, kid.
A 6-foot nitrous-assisted
bong.
bong.
Five. That's all you can do.
Trying to add that extra foot.
That's what. Yeah, look at Telly. Come on, of course he's adding extra feet over here. No, but Jerome Baker. If you're not familiar,
if you don't know who he is, then you suck.
Yeah, if you don't know him personally and know him as Jerome Baker and really know that he is Jerome Baker, that he's not somebody else not named Jerome Baker, then you really know. Anyway, check them out. Obviously, tell them you heard about it on the Adam Dunn Show.
All right. Calling all cannabis cultivators this May at Seeds here now. Enjoy 20% off cherry strains and Easy Days genetics. Plus, our final harvest sale will let you save up to 45% on regular seeds. The only way to earn raffle tickets for fantastic prizes like Unicorn Poop by Thug Pug. Join our celebrations this Cinco de Mayo and Mother's Day with additional site-wide savings. Visit Seeds here now and start saving today.
He never sounds like he's reading.
James and I were talking about doing all sorts of cool ideas. He's got some good ideas.
Nice.
Stay tuned for some incredibly fun episodes with he's been brainstorming, and every single idea he threw my way I was like, I like all of them, dude. They're all killer. But
we're just telling you guys need to join us on Patreon because
that's what James
Mark found.
What?
This thing, I can't believe this.
I
can't believe he didn't call you out.
And James,
I can't believe it doesn't say right after Jesse Horton. And Adam Dunn, that prick, got me to
voices.
All right, so James, if you're listening, jump on because we got some big news. Big news over on Patreon.
This is current. You didn't get this on April 1st.
I just opened
because I fell for the Carta one when he goes, "We resolved everything with Puffco. No more lawsuits. We're settling out." And I went, fuck yeah, it's about time. You know? And he's like, and then you said it.
Get your
like,
seats,
no lie.
now.com.
All right.
Check out the show merch at adamdunshow.com/show merch. And, You get the motherfucking Adam Dunn Show shirt.
Look like our buddy right here.
Oh, you need to charge your phone, by the way, Mark, if the photo you sent us is
current.
I
know, yeah. But
yeah, charge phone.
My charger's over there with Adam.
Ooh, I stole it over here.
Whoa. Watch how you make fun of your boss there, buddy.
Dude, you know how I could come down
Holy
hard on you.
Shit. HR, are you listening?
She is live. All right, but yeah, check out our website, help support the show. And
thank you,
join
Colin,
us on
for coming
Patreon,
in and
of course,
with
because
us.
that's where you can hang out with us for another hour. We'll be hanging out over there.
And we got
razzing
some juice.
on people. Razzing. We're going to be razzing on some people.
Wait, what? Juice.
We got
the juice.
Oh, yeah, and we got fucking Miles.
Yeah,
in the
and
studio
Miles.
with
And the
joints.
juice.
He's a big hash hole right now. Look at him.
There's another one of me
big
here?
Big hash hole. He's a fucking big hash hole over there. What?
I don't know. He said he got the juice.
Oh, the juice.
Oh, the juice. Got it.
All right. See you on Patreon. People. Shout out to CC and PDX. Oh, he's killing it.
He always does this when you say goodbye and then you go, and
I'm all like,
and he's like ready to go. Wait, should I not?
But he's building all these games and stupid shit and selling it. And there's all these people signing up though.
Nice, dude.
They're all signing up and buying shit off of him. I'm like,
that's good.
Who people are buying that? He's like, yep.
Nice.
Now he's making all these cars and crap.
That's excellent.
Excellent, son.
Patreon.
Come over.
Peace.
Peace.
Practically every one of the top 40 records being played on every radio station in the United States is a communication to the children to take a trip, to cop out, to groove. This is White Jackets on the record album.
This is a special question. We don't want you to smoke genetically modified ganja. We want you to smoke the real thing. One of them smoke the natural herb. Sweet. Some call it marijuana. Sweet. Some call it sesame. Sweet. Some call it Ann's bread. The tea. And some people call it